Chapter 2241. That's right. If I can get my hands on this 9 remoteness door and refine it, I'm 100% sure that I can improve my power without any hindrance. Besides, I'll be able to reach down master level within 100 years. I might even have a chance to become a universe overlord. Yang Hongwu nodded. This was a little exaggerated. Furukura Daizuin didn't believe it. It was impossible for someone to become a universe overlord within 100 years. Even if he was an invincible overlord in his previous life, or even an existence that surpassed invincible overlords, it was still impossible. You can't speak carelessly. At this moment, Furukura Daizuin looked at Yang Hongwu and said, "It's almost impossible to become a universe overlord within 100 years. Even if you don't have any bottlenecks or hindrances in your cultivation, it's still impossible for you to increase your power as long as you have enough energy. Even if you simply refine the energy of the universe, it's impossible for you to become a universe overlord within 100 years. Of course, since you're determined to take the risk and refine this 9 remoteness door, I don't mind lending you a hand. However, if the real owner of this 9 remoteness door appears, I might not be able to resist it. When the time comes, I won't be able to decide whether you live or die." Yang Hongwu was overjoyed. This meant that Furukura Daizuin was willing to help. With his help, it would be much easier for him to refine this 9 remoteness door. If he were alone, Yang Hongwu wouldn't have enough confidence. The probability of success would be less than 10%. However, with Furukura Daizuin's help, the probability of obtaining this 9 remoteness door would be more than 90%. No, it could even be said to be 100%. To Yang Hongwu, refining this 9 remoteness door was, in fact, not difficult. It wasn't difficult at all. As long as Furukura Daizuin was able to suppress the 9 underworld's gate, he would be able to refine it. Using the eyes of life, the devouring furnace, the karmic fire of the red lotus, and his powerful 9 heavens dragon technique, he would be able to refine it. Can't he refine a mere door? If this door was not tactful, then he would destroy it directly. To Yang Hongwu, although the 9 underworld's door was mysterious, it did not mean that Yang Hongwu had to have the complete 9 underworld's door. To him, he only needed to obtain a part of the great Tao origin of the 9 underworld's door and use the power of the great Tao origin to break through his cursed shackles. Then he would be able to comprehend the great Tao of the universe to a higher level. His path of cultivation was open and above board, without too many obstacles. This was Yang Hongwu's real purpose. Thank you, Senior. With your help, the 9 underworld's door is nothing. As for whether the 9 underworld's door has a master, you don't have to worry about it. I'm sure that the 9 underworld's door doesn't have a master, Yang Hongwu said. You said he had just found some clues. In fact, the so-called master of the 9 underworld's door did not exist at all. In other words, the master of the 9 underworld's door was the 9 underworld's door itself, which was the tool spirit of the 9 underworld's door. The 9 underworld's door's ambition was that he did not want to be someone's weapon, nor did he want to be someone's slave. He wanted to be the master himself. Although the 9 underworld's door seemed powerful, in fact, he was the slave that the 9 underworld's door intended to cultivate. He had already chosen Grand Sovereign Yumen before he was even born. However, he never expected that Grand Sovereign Yumen would be so lousy. He was simply a pile of mud that couldn't be supported at all. This time, he originally wanted to protect the 9 underworld's door. Even if he could not protect him, he wanted to use his physical body to escape. However, he did not expect the 9 underworld's door to be so stupid that he did not even give the 9 underworld's door a chance to react. It was also because of this that the 9 underworld's door could only give up on the 9 underworld's door. Even though he had spent a lot of time and energy on the 9 underworld's door, he did not want to give up. There was nothing he could do about it. At this point, there was no way for this kid to recover. Moreover, he could sense the thoughts of the 9 underworld's door's master towards the 9 underworld's door. Originally, he also wanted to wait for Grand Venerable Blazing Sun to refine Grand Venerable Yumen and then take advantage of the opportunity to refine Grand Venerable Blazing Sun into his human slave. However, after hesitating for a moment, he gave up on this idea. Grand Venerable Blazing Sun wasn't Grand Venerable you men. Moreover, once Grand Venerable Blazing Sun refined Grand Venerable Yu Men's universe Tao origin, what would happen when the two universe Taos fused together? Even the Nine Underworld's door himself did not know. Therefore, he did not dare to take the risk. If the Nine Underworld's door was discovered by the Nine Underworld's door, it would be troublesome. After all, the Nine Underworld's door was an ancient creation true treasure. It had experienced many things, witnessed many great battles, and encountered many peerless geniuses. If the Nine Underworld's door could not even see through this, it could just go to hell. In the past, he had been a supreme master who could kill an invincible overlord with a flick of his finger. Only an expert of that level was qualified to make him submit and order him around willingly. However, it was very difficult to see such an expert nowadays. The Nine Underworld's door had also suffered serious injuries, and his strength was far from his peak state. It was almost impossible for him to recover from this. Unless there was a special universe overlord from Spirit Treasure Great Universe who had comprehended the great Tao of Spirit Treasure Universe to the level of an invincible overlord, or even above that level, there was no way he would be able to defeat him again. He had to recover to his original realm. If there was really a cultivator who had comprehended the great Tao of the Spirit Treasure Great Universe, he would not hesitate to recognize him as his master. However, there were too few such cultivators. Therefore, he was unwilling. He would not choose another cultivator of the great Tao of the universe as his master. You're actually this certain? In that case, I shall see how you're going to refine this Nine Underworld's gate. I'll suppress this Nine Underworld's gate for you. You refine it. Remember, you only have 15 minutes. If you're unable to refine it after 15 minutes, then if you refine it after 15 minutes, there is nothing I can do. As Supreme Sovereign Ancient Desolation spoke, a boundless amount of energy burst forth and shrouded the Nine Underworld's door, sealing off the space around it completely. At this moment, the Nine Underworld's door turned pale with fright. He was plotting against him. This guy's strength was really terrifying. He had sealed off the space so that he could not escape. Trouble was coming. Chapter 2242. Nine Remoteness Door knew that he was in big trouble. He even had a feeling that there was no escape. This made him panic. He had never encountered such a situation before. Even when he was facing an invincible overlord, he didn't have such a terrifying feeling. Nine Remoteness Door, you know that you have your own consciousness. The Nine-Nether Gate, right? I know that you have your own consciousness, so you'd better behave yourself. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. If you were at your peak condition, perhaps I might be a little fearful. However, the current you is far from your peak condition. Moreover, you've also endured a large portion of the frightening impact from the self-destruction of that revived expert. This portion of energy has already injured you. Therefore, your current condition is far from enough. It's simply impossible for you to escape from my hands. Don't make any more pointless struggles. Let this youth try to refine you. If he's unable to refine you within 15 minutes, I'll set you free. Give him 15 minutes, Furukura Daizuin said. Really? Nine Remoteness Door replied after hearing Furukura Daizuin's words. If that was the case, it would be a good thing. After all, he was only concerned about Furukura Daizuin, a pinnacle universe overlord. Although he wasn't an invincible overlord, there was a terrifying pressure coming from him. This pressure wasn't something that ordinary people could withstand. Most importantly, there was such a powerful pressure on his body. This meant that there was a terrifying power in his body. This terrifying power could cause a huge impact on him and could even obliterate his consciousness. The Nine Underworld's Gate understood very well that its true body, the true Nine Underworld's Gate, was difficult to destroy. However, this was only because its physical body was indestructible. It did not mean that its soul was indestructible. In reality, the Nine Underworld's Gate had given birth to quite a few soul consciousnesses, but they were all destroyed by others. The current him was born after those consciousnesses were destroyed. After he was born, he had the memories of those soul consciousnesses, which was why he was so fearful. This was also why he wanted to become a true cultivator and have a powerful physical body. Moreover, a physical body that could self-cultivate wasn't the 9 remoteness door. Once he obtained a true physical body, he would be able to refine 9 remoteness door into his life true treasure. That way, he would have a chance to break through to the legendary realm and enter that legendary level. Of course, this was very difficult after all. If someone could comprehend the great Tao of the universe of the numinous treasure great cosmos, they could enter the numinous treasure great cosmos and use the great Tao of the universe to temper themselves and become a true cultivator. This was another way. However, the possibility of this was too low. In fact, entering the spiritual treasure great cosmos to cultivate the great path of the spiritual treasure universe was much easier than cultivating after transforming into a true life form. After all, transforming into a life form with flesh and blood wasn't an easy task. The universe within the ancient Desolation Supreme Venerate's body was definitely not the spiritual treasure great universe. So it was impossible for the 9 Underworld's gate to acknowledge him as its master. However, the Supreme Venerate possessed the means to destroy its spiritual consciousness. Hence, his request might not be a bad thing for the 9 Underworld's gate. He didn't think that this kid, who was merely a peak ruler and a half-step Tao Lord, could refine him. Even if he didn't resist, this kid still wouldn't be able to do it. After all, even a universe overlord like Great Venerate Serene Door couldn't do it. No matter how talented or heaven-defying this kid was, he definitely wouldn't be able to do it. It wasn't that easy to become the master of a supreme treasure. Even if he took the initiative to recognize someone as his master, the other party wouldn't be able to truly refine him if he wasn't strong enough. This kid, who was only a ruler, wanted to refine his body in the 9 remoteness door. This was simply a fool's dream. Unless the world within this kid's body was spirit treasure great universe, then he would have a glimmer of hope. If this kid really had a spirit treasure great universe, then what harm was there in acknowledging him as his master? Farouk Haradaizuan, you have to keep your word. Otherwise, you won't have it easy if I self-destruct. The 9 remoteness door said to Farouk Haradaizuan, don't worry, Farouk Haradaizuan, never go back on my word. I mean what I say. Farouk Haradaizuan frowned slightly and sounded a little displeased. The 9 remoteness door actually doubted his character. This was simply infuriating. That's great. Hearing this, the 9 remoteness door was relieved. Although he was still a little worried and doubtful, he also knew that at the level of a universe overlord, they could basically disdain to lie. Generally, they wouldn't go back on their word. Once they did, it would be quite a big hindrance to their future cultivation. No one would leave behind a flaw in their great Tao of the universe for a mere promise. If such a flaw was discovered by the enemy in a battle, it could be fatal. All right, since you have agreed, then it's up to this kid. However, I can tell you that if you acknowledge him as your master, it might be a good thing for you. It might not be a bad thing. Of course, you can also resist. However, if you resist, perhaps he will directly wipe out your consciousness. After finishing his words, Farouk Haradaizuan completely isolated this space in an instant. Unless someone defeated Farouk Haradaizuan and was stronger than Farouk Haradaizuan, no one would be able to find this space. Moreover, even if someone found this space, if Farouk Haradaizuan didn't open the space door, no one would be able to enter it. Unless the other party's strength was much stronger than Farouk Haradaizuan's and entered the level of a true invincible overlord, it would be impossible for anyone to find this space. Not far away, Supreme Venerable Blazing Sun, who was frantically refining the universe Tao of Supreme Venerable Yuman, had sensed that the aura of the 9 Underworld's door had disappeared. He knew that Farouk Haradaizuan must have taken action. Since Farouk Haradaizuan had already taken action, it meant that the 9 Underworld's door couldn't escape. For him, this could be a good thing or a bad thing. The good thing was that the 9 Underworld's door had fallen into Farouk Haradaizuan's hands, and he had a chance to obtain it. The bad thing was that it would be very difficult for him to take back the 9 underworlds door from Furukura Daizuen's hands unless he could pay a great price and obtain something that could move Furukura Daizuen's heart. Only then would he be able to take back the 9 underworlds door. However, in any case, the most important thing for him now was to restore his cultivation base. At this moment, Yang Hongwu was very happy after receiving Furukura Daizuen's message. He didn't expect Furukura Daizuen to be so powerful that the 9 underworlds door didn't resist and allowed him to refine it. Chapter 2243. Lad, you want to refine me? That's a fool's dream. You're too weak. You're only at the Dominator realm, a half-step Dao Lord. You won't be able to do it unless you've reached the level of a universe overlord. Then there might be a slight chance. Give up, and I'll overlook your rudeness. At this moment, a voice sounded in Yang Hongwu's mind. It was the voice of the 9 underworlds door. Yang Hongwu wasn't surprised when he heard this. He already knew that the 9 underworlds door had consciousness, and it wasn't simple. Those who were able to reach this level, regardless of whether they were cultivators or other special living beings, were all the same. They were not simple people. If one were to think that the 9 underworlds door was merely a supreme treasure and a treasure without any other thoughts, then one would be gravely mistaken. Yang Hongwu knew very well that no matter what it was, as long as it had consciousness, it couldn't be underestimated. Even if it was a stone, it was the same. Moreover, the 9 underworlds door was an extremely powerful treasure. Moreover, this treasure had followed countless masters. No matter how stupid one was, one would know too many things. No matter how stupid one was, one would know too many things after seeing too many things. After all, none of the masters it had followed were simple. This was because the master of a 9 underworlds door was at least at the level of a universe overlord. How could someone who could become a universe overlord be simple? How could the 9 underworlds door possibly be so simple after being tainted by so much? Therefore, no matter who it was, anyone who underestimated the 9 underworlds door would pay a heavy price. Of course, Yang Hongwu didn't dare to underestimate it. This was an old fox. If it wasn't for the suppression of Furukura Daizuen, he wouldn't be so relaxed now. How could a 9 underworlds door talk to him like this? It was just a verbal threat, but it would probably attack him directly. I naturally believe in senior strength. However, I still want to give it a try. What if I succeed? If that happens, senior will have to work for me. Yang Hongwu's lips curled into a smile as he spoke in a nonchalant tone. Haha, not bad. Young man, you have courage. All right, I'll make you give up. Even if you don't succeed, I'll give you a huge reward. The 9 underworlds gate said in a clear voice. When Yang Hongwu heard this, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly and his eyes narrowed. He wasn't stupid enough to believe the words of the 9 underworlds door. The words of such a guy couldn't be trusted. If he believed him, then he would really be tricked by the Japanese. At this time, Yang Hongwu began to concentrate on refining. With Furukura Daizuen's suppression, Yang Hongwu could do whatever he wanted. However, Yang Hongwu still didn't dare to enter the space of the 9 underworlds door. After all, the space of the 9 underworlds door might not be a real world. If it was a real world, then he could use the eyes of life to deal with it. However, if it was a special space, a space of supreme treasure, then it might not be so. His eyes of life was originally the Dharma eye of annihilation. Because it had fused with a special energy, it underwent a mutation and became the current eyes of life. Its power had increased by a lot, and it had become much stronger. However, Yang Hongwu didn't have enough confidence, because that was the 9 underworlds door. What kind of existence was the 9 underworlds door? Even if its internal space was a world, his eyes of life might not be able to destroy it in a short period of time. It was precisely because of this that Yang Hongwu didn't dare to take such a risk. Since he couldn't enter it, he could only swallow the 9 underworlds door into his devouring furnace. Once it entered his devouring furnace, although the 9 underworlds door had the power to resist, Yang Hongwu had his own plans. He didn't want to target the entire 9 underworlds door. He only wanted to target the consciousness of the nine underworlds door, which was the nine underworlds door soul body. Yang Hongwu didn't have the slightest confidence to deal with the body of the nine underworlds door. However, the soul consciousness of the nine underworlds door was different. Yang Hongwu's devouring furnace, eyes of life, and various other supreme true treasures had a huge suppressive effect on soul consciousness. Moreover, Yang Hongwu's own soul consciousness was strong enough. In Yang Hongwu's opinion, his soul consciousness was definitely comparable to that of a Great Path Knight. It could even be compared to some of the weaker universe overlords. In this way, if it was just soul consciousness, without the support of the Great Path laws and the power of the Great Path of the universe, it was absolutely possible for him to deal with his soul consciousness. Even if he had to pay a price, it would be worth it. After all, this was the nine underworlds door. After obtaining the nine underworlds door, he would be able to liberate his sea of consciousness and break the cursed shackles. In this way, he would be able to truly transform. After Yang Hongwu took out the devouring furnace, he directly swallowed the nine underworlds door into the furnace. Seeing this scene, Furukura Daizuin was shocked. He almost couldn't believe that Yang Hongwu actually dared to do this. This wasn't a joke. He was too weak. He was merely at the Dominator level, yet he dared to swallow the nine underworlds door into his body. This was crazy. One had to know that even Furukura Daizuin himself wouldn't dare to do this easily. This was because swallowing an unrefined supreme true treasure into one's body would require a huge amount of energy to suppress it. If one didn't have enough power and couldn't suppress it, they might suffer from a backlash. This backlash was quite terrifying. It was quite frightening. If one wasn't careful, they might be finished. This was the same even for universe overlords. Yang Hongwu, are you crazy? Hurry up and release the nine underworlds door. Although Furukura Daizuin knew that Yang Hongwu must have his own plans, he was still taking a huge risk. After all, his cultivation was only at the ruler realm. Furthermore, he had already swallowed the nine underworlds gate into his body. Even if she wanted to help him, she could not do so. Although the Red Lotus Hellfire is overbearing and powerful, it doesn't affect me much. It's still too weak. If it were a universe overlord level Red Lotus Hellfire, it would pose a threat to me. But now, this Red Lotus Hellfire is too weak. Burning me is like bathing me. Quick, boy, make the flame bigger. It's too small. It can help me wash my body. After the nine underworlds gate entered the devouring furnace, he wasn't worried at all. Although the appearance of the karmic fire surprised him, it was only a little. Chapter 2244. The nine underworlds gate was extremely confident. However, he was overly confident. He was confident that the nine underworlds gate itself wasn't his soul consciousness. He didn't know what his true weakness was. Of course, when facing a sovereign realm cultivator like Yang Hongwu, he had completely forgotten about this point. He had underestimated his opponent too much. Because of this, he had given Yang Hongwu a chance. The instant the nine underworlds gate was swallowed into the devouring furnace, Yang Hongwu had already started his plan. Furthermore, Yang Hongwu's plan had succeeded. He had directly caused the nine underworlds gate's soul consciousness to fall into Yang Hongwu's trap. Senior nine underworlds gate, you've underestimated me. At this moment, everything was in place. Yang Hongwu didn't continue to hide anything. Instead, he spoke to the nine underworlds gate's consciousness. Could it be that you haven't discovered anything amiss? What's going on? Upon hearing Yang Hongwu's words, the nine underworlds gate suddenly discovered that something was amiss. He discovered that his soul consciousness had actually been extracted from the nine underworlds gate's main body. However, this point shocked him greatly. He was stunned. At this moment, he remembered his greatest weakness. His weakness wasn't the nine underworlds gate's main body, but his soul consciousness. He knew that the nine underworlds gate had given birth to many consciousnesses in the past. However, none of them had lasted forever. The nine underworlds gate was still the nine underworlds gate. However, the consciousness of the nine underworlds gate had changed over and over again. Therefore, the nine underworlds gate had a weakness. The true weakness was the consciousness within the nine underworlds gate. In other words, it was an artifact spirit like him. In the past, countless artifact spirits of the nine underworlds gate had been obliterated and died. It was precisely because of this that he had done everything he could to change everything. He didn't want to continue being the artifact spirit of the nine underworlds gate. Instead, he wanted to be a true cultivator. He wanted to be his own master, the master of the nine underworlds gate. However, at this crucial moment, he had actually forgotten the most crucial point. He had actually forgotten that his consciousness and his spirit body were his true weakness. Fortunately, it wasn't as if he didn't have a chance. The kid in front of him had a cultivation base that was too low. He was only at the sovereign realm. Even his own soul consciousness was extremely powerful. Although it wasn't enough, it wasn't enough. Even though it was comparable to the soul consciousness of a true overlord of the universe, it was comparable to a great down knight's soul consciousness. Defeating a great down knight's soul consciousness, there was still a chance. Of course, this kid was not to be underestimated. He was Underworld's gate's gate. It was precisely because of this that the nine underworlds door knew very well that he was facing quite a lot of difficulties at this very moment. If he were to cross this threshold, he would also obtain quite a lot of benefits. Of course, if he failed, then he might become this kid's artifact spirit and be controlled by him. Being controlled by a kid who was only at the sovereign realm was something he was unwilling to do. However, he still had a huge chance. After all, even though he was only an artifact spirit, he was still very powerful even without the nine underworlds gate. He wasn't someone a mere sovereign realm cultivator could contend against. Unless Furukuradizuin helped Yang Hongwu at this moment. This was what he was most worried about. Furukuradizuin had once said that he wouldn't help Yang Hongwu suppress and refine the nine underworlds gate. Everything depended on Yang Hongwu. Because of this, the nine underworlds gate knew that he still had a chance. Otherwise, he would have given up after his spiritual body was extracted from the nine underworlds gate. Kid, you're really scheming. How bold. You actually extracted my spiritual body from my nine underworlds gate. I was too careless. If I wasn't careless, you wouldn't have been able to do it. However, kid, don't forget that your cultivation is too weak. You're only at the sovereign realm. You're a half-step Tao Lord. You haven't even reached the level of a true Tao Lord. Although my spiritual body isn't as powerful as when it fuses with my main body, it's still not something a mere sovereign realm cultivator like you can contend against. Do you know what's good for you? If you know what's good for you, kneel down and beg for mercy. Submit to me. That way, I won't blame you. On the contrary, I'll still give you a huge surprise and a huge benefit. The weapon spirit of the nine underworlds gate didn't know what other trump cards Yang Hongwu had up his sleeves. Therefore, the weapon spirit of the nine underworlds gate didn't dare to be careless. This was because he wanted to get something out of Yang Hongwu by saying this to Yang Hongwu. If he could persuade Yang Hongwu to surrender, that would be great. However, he was very clear that this was almost impossible. Yang Hongwu wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity so easily. If he were in Yang Hongwu's shoes, he would also do the same. He wouldn't miss such a good opportunity. Once he succeeded, he would get a huge benefit. Where else could he find such a good thing? Even if he didn't succeed, Yang Hongwu wouldn't suffer any losses. This was because he had a peerless master at the pinnacle of the universe behind him. What about Furukuradizuin? His backer was simply too powerful. Even if the nine underworld door had won the battle and was able to suppress or even kill Yang Hongwu, he would not dare to do so. Senior 9 Underworld's Gate, you talk too much. Are you trying to stall for time, or are you trying to get something out of me? No matter what it is, it's useless. Although you are the weapon spirit of the 9 Underworld's Gate, and you are very powerful when you are combined with the 9 Underworld's Gate, I can't do anything to you. I don't even dare to clash with you. However, it's different now. You're just a soul body. You know that I'm the least afraid of soul bodies, even if they are at the level of a universe overlord. I won't be too afraid of them. With that, Yang Hongwu triggered his mind. Devouring Oven, Red Lotus Hellfire, and a series of other powerful trump cards were all brought out by Yang Hongwu. Most importantly, Yang Hongwu didn't release these trump cards individually. Instead, he formed an array. This array wasn't that simple. This array was specially made to deal with soul bodies. Array, damn it. Brat, how can you know how to set up a soul array? Moreover, it's such a complete and powerful array. Seeing the soul formation that Yang Hongwu had set up, the weapon spirit of the 9 underworlds door panicked. If it was just Yang Hongwu and the supreme treasures in his hands, the 9 underworlds door wouldn't be so nervous. However, with the addition of a soul formation, it was a completely different story. Yang Hongwu wanted to beat him to death. Under the suppression of the soul formation, he couldn't display his strength at all. Chapter 2245. Senior, this formation is a huge gift that this little one has specially prepared for you. I hope that Senior can be as relaxed and carefree as before. I believe that this formation is nothing to Senior. If this formation is unable to affect Senior in any way, then this little one will admit defeat and give up on refining Senior's body, the 9 underworlds door. Yang Hongwu smiled faintly as he looked at the weapon spirit of the 9 underworlds door. Just a moment ago, it was incomparably arrogant. Now, it was in an extremely sorry state, unable to even protect itself. One had to admit that no matter what the situation was, one could not be too arrogant and conceited. This was the case for the weapon spirit of the 9 underworlds door in front of him. If it wasn't so conceited, it would be very difficult for Lin Fan to deal with a 9 underworlds door. It definitely wouldn't be so easy. After all, its strength was there for all to see. Damn it, Brat, I advise you not to be too arrogant. Let me out quickly, and I can spare your life. Otherwise, when I get out myself, it will be the day of your death. At that time, even Furukura Daizuin won't be able to protect you. Do you understand? Even at this point, the weapon spirit of the 9 underworlds door was still stubborn. It wanted to threaten Yang Hongwu and break out of Yang Hongwu's spiritual formation. It already felt an extremely great threat. It couldn't break this formation now. If it tried to break it by force, it wouldn't benefit it at all. However, if it didn't break the formation, it might really be destroyed here. This was a huge problem for the 9 underworlds door. It was extremely regretful now. It regretted agreeing to Furukura Daizuin's request. It also regretted being so careless and underestimating this sovereign realm brat. Never in his wildest dreams did he expect that he would actually have such a powerful method. It was actually a spiritual array. If he was in a situation where he had his original body, such a spiritual array would not pose the slightest threat to him. However, this brat had used some unknown method to extract his spiritual body. Furthermore, the most frightening thing was that he had even cut off the connection between his spiritual body and the 9 underworlds door. Of course, it also believed that this brat couldn't have done it alone. After all, he was only in the sovereign realm. This was definitely done by Furukura Daizuin. If it wasn't for Furukura Daizuin's help, this brat wouldn't have been able to do it all. However, it was too late for it to regret and realize it now. Furukura Daizuin, you liar. You said that you wouldn't help this brat. You actually did something secretly and schemed against me. Hurry up and let me out. Otherwise, I will self-destruct the 9 underworlds door. At that time, you will suffer. Do you understand? At this moment, the 9 underworlds door could feel its spiritual body being refined and disappearing continuously. It was anxious now. It knew that Yang Hongwu wouldn't let it go. Now, it could only depend on Furukura Daizuin. If Furukura Daizuin let it out, or didn't cut off its 9 underworlds door, then it would have a chance. On the other hand, if Furukura Daizuin didn't release the restriction on its spiritual body, then it would really be obliterated. Although this brat was weak, it was only a matter of time before his spiritual body was obliterated bit by bit. It wasn't willing to be obliterated like this. It wasn't willing to die like this. It hadn't fulfilled its wish yet. It hadn't lived long enough. It didn't want to die. However, the 9 underworlds door misunderstood. All of this wasn't part of Furukura Daizuin's plan. Even Furukura Daizuin was very surprised at this moment. He didn't expect Yang Hongwu to have such a method. He directly extracted the spiritual body of the nine underworlds door and completely cut off the connection between the spiritual body of the nine underworlds door and the spiritual body of the nine underworlds door. This was indeed an excellent method. Although the nine underworlds door was powerful, its greatest weakness was actually the spiritual body of the nine underworlds door. Of course, to the real nine underworlds door, the spiritual body of the nine underworlds door was dispensable. A nine underworlds door without a spiritual body of the nine underworlds door was still very powerful. The spiritual body of the nine underworlds door was just a spiritual body nurtured by the nine underworlds door. Without this spiritual body, the nine underworlds door could still nurture another spiritual body. In fact, Furukura Daizuin guessed that the real nine underworlds door had its own consciousness and wasn't just a weak spiritual body nurtured by the nine underworlds door. Perhaps the nine underworlds door was a part of a supreme expert, and the spiritual body that was nurtured was just an incomplete spiritual body that was nurtured by a part of the supreme expert's body. However, if this incomplete spiritual body was so powerful, then how terrifying would the real body be? This was unimaginable. In fact, all of this was just Furukura Daizuin's own guess. As for whether it was true or not, even he himself wasn't sure. Plot against you? Furukura Daizuin said. There's no need for that. I wouldn't do such a thing. I also didn't secretly help Yang Hongwu plot against you. All of this was his own doing. As for your nine underworlds door, you're too careless. In fact, you're not the real nine underworlds door. You're just a spiritual body that was nurtured by the nine underworlds door, a weak spiritual body. Bastard, Furukura Daizuin, you deserve to die. How dare you plot against me and want me to die? You're dreaming. I won't let you get what you want. Do you really think that you can suppress my real body? You're underestimating me. My nine underworlds door comes from the eternal land. I won't die. At this moment, the spiritual body of the nine underworlds door seemed to have undergone a miraculous change. This spiritual body actually became stronger. Under the suppression of Yang Hongwu's spiritual body array, it actually underwent a transformation. At this moment, Yang Hongwu's face turned extremely grave. Not good. This is the art of sacrifice. At this moment, Furukura Daizuin shouted. Yang Hongwu, quickly stop him. Otherwise, you'll be in a lot of trouble. Sacrifice. Yang Hongwu's face changed when he heard this. He knew about the art of sacrifice. Some ancient demonic gods had such a method. These ancient demonic gods had countless followers. These followers were incomparably evil existences. In order to obtain power, they would use things. The most common method was to use countless living beings and their souls as sacrifices in exchange for power. In order to obtain the power of these demonic gods, they would become even stronger. Of course, they could obtain power through sacrifice, but they could also obtain other things through sacrifice. In fact, the art of sacrifice could obtain anything as long as the sacrifice was appropriate. Right now, even Furukura Daizuin was so worried. This proved that once the nine underworlds door's spiritual body array succeeded in its sacrifice, trouble would really come for him. Life force exterminate. Yang Hongwu lightly shouted. In the spiritual body array, an ancient and powerful light beam was condensed. This was an attack condensed from the life force. This attack condensed 90% of Yang Hongwu's power. It was aimed at the spiritual body array. Now, in this spiritual body array, the power of this attack was undoubtedly unleashed to the extreme. A bright light shot out like an arrow and instantly struck the spiritual body of the nine underworlds door. Too late. Just as the ray of light was about to hit the nine underworlds door's weapon spirit, an ancient rune appeared, and it was immediately enveloped by a jet black energy. In the next moment, it disappeared from where it stood, and what replaced it was a jet black, strange, and incomparably evil little beast. Chapter 2246. Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast. This is a dark demon duo evil soul beast. It feeds on souls. At this moment, Supreme Monarch Ancient Desolation saw the evil little black beast, and his expression changed drastically. He shouted, "Yang Hongwu, back off. That thing isn't something you can handle." Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast. Hearing this name, Yang Hongwu narrowed his eyes. He knew what was going on. At this time, a lot of information appeared in his mind. This information was about the memories of the Dark Demon Soul Beast. The Dark Demon Soul Beast was indeed very terrifying. It was a strange beast under the Dark Demon God. It was a terrifying race that specialized in feeding on souls. Even the powerful overlords of the universe were very wary of such an evil beast. In many universes, the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast was a taboo existence. No one even wanted to talk about it. There were very few people who knew about the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast. Those who had seen it were almost all dead. Only a small number of extremely powerful existences had ever seen a Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast. It was clear that the ancient Desolation Supreme Monarch had seen it before. Therefore, he knew how terrifying it was. In fact, this was indeed the case. This thing was not something ordinary people could deal with. Furukura Daizuin had encountered such an existence before. He had encountered the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast. However, that Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast was much stronger than this one. Back then, Furukura Daizuin had paid a huge price to kill the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast. Until now, Furukura Daizuin still remembered the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast. Now that he saw it again, Furukura Daizuin was shocked. He didn't expect the treasure spirit of the 9 Underworlds Gate to use a sacrificial method to summon the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast here. The most important thing was that the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast was now in Yang Hongwu's space. Furukura Daizuin couldn't enter Yang Hongwu's space to deal with the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast. If he forcefully entered Yang Hongwu's space, Yang Hongwu's space would suffer great damage. The gains wouldn't make up for the losses. However, if he didn't enter, Yang Hongwu didn't know if he could deal with the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast. If he couldn't deal with it, Yang Hongwu's soul would suffer great damage. Of course, Furukura Daizuin also knew that Yang Hongwu's body had the power left behind from his previous life. The Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast would at most cause some trouble for Yang Hongwu. It wouldn't be able to threaten Yang Hongwu's life. However, if that was the case, the power left behind by Yang Hongwu's previous life would be consumed. This was very disadvantageous. It had to be known that the power left in Yang Hongwu's body from his previous life could only be used once. Once it was used, it would be gone. It could not be regenerated. This was Yang Hongwu's life-saving trump card. Furukura Daizuin didn't want to see Yang Hongwu use it for no reason at this time. Of course, he reminded Yang Hongwu and hoped that Yang Hongwu had a way to deal with the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast. Yang Hongwu was a terrifying expert in his previous life. He should have seen the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast and even had a good way to deal with it. If that was the case, then it would be great. Of course, this was only what he hoped for. Whether or not it could be done depended on Yang Hongwu himself. If he couldn't deal with the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast, then it would be fate. If Yang Hongwu could deal with the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast without relying on the power of his previous life, then this time, Yang Hongwu would gain great benefits. His power would be greatly improved. Not only would he be able to obtain the 9 remoteness door and break the cursed shackles in his body, but he would also be able to give him the great path of the universe of the resurrected great being. This would greatly improve his power. With these 2 benefits, it would be enough to improve his power to the level of a Dao Master in the shortest time possible. Even becoming a Great Path Knight wasn't enough for him to become a Universe Overlord. Furukura Daizuin could see that with Yang Hongwu's situation, if he wanted to become a Universe Overlord, he would need to consume too many resources. With the Great Path of the resurrected great beings of this level, he would be able to reach the level where he could become a Universe Overlord. Resurrected great beings of the Universe Overlord level were not common. Even if there were in such a short period of time, during this period of martyrdom, it would be impossible for him to take down all of them. Besides, it took him a lot of effort to take down one resurrected great being. If one or two more came, he might not be able to deal with them. Where would he find so many resurrected great beings for Yang Hongwu to refine? Therefore, all of this was untenable. If Yang Hongwu wanted to improve his cultivation and become a universe overlord, it would all depend on Yang Hongwu himself. Outsiders wouldn't be able to help him much. Besides, when one's cultivation reached a certain level, it wouldn't last long to refine the great paths of other great beings of the universe. It would be impossible for one to achieve great things. Since Yang Hongwu was an invincible overlord, or even a reincarnation of an existence that surpassed invincible overlords, he must have made preparations in his previous life so that he could improve his power to a higher level after his reincarnation. How could he use such a low-level method to improve his power? If he cut off his future path of cultivation, it was absolutely impossible for him to use such a method of cultivation. However, seeing how calm Yang Hongwu was, Furukura Daizuin was sure that Yang Hongwu had a way to deal with the Dark Devil Beast. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so calm. After the Dark Devil Beast appeared, it stared at Yang Hongwu. This Dark Devil Beast was summoned by the weapon spirit of the Nine Remoteness Door by sacrificing its soul to deal with Yang Hongwu. Now that it had appeared, it naturally had its eyes on Yang Hongwu. It would kill Yang Hongwu at all costs. However, when it saw Yang Hongwu, it sensed a dangerous aura from Yang Hongwu. A mere sovereign realm ant was able to give it a dangerous aura. This made the Dark Devil Beast a little surprised and curious. However, as a Dark Devil Beast, it would never cower or be afraid. After staring at Yang Hongwu for a while, the Dark Devil Beast moved. It charged towards Yang Hongwu without any hesitation. Its entire body was filled with an evil aura. Even through the formation, Yang Hongwu could feel the terrifying evil aura from the Dark Devil Beast. This aura was nauseating. Dark Devil Beast, it's been a long time. However, this Dark Devil Beast is too weak. It's not interesting at all. Yang Hongwu murmured. Hearing this, the Dark Devil Beast was enraged. A terrifying evil force spread out. At this time, its body became huge, but its speed didn't slow down at all. In the blink of an eye, the Dark Devil Beast appeared in front of Yang Hongwu. It opened its huge mouth, revealing its ferocious teeth. They were like sharp daggers that could tear everything apart. Chapter 22:47. Good fellow, this is getting interesting. Yang Hongwu was slightly surprised to see the Dark Demon Beast transformation. However, this was still within his control. It would be troublesome if it was out of his control, but Yang Hongwu didn't really care about it right now. Of course, even so, Yang Hongwu didn't dare to be careless. After all, it was better to be safe than sorry. As a cultivator, he couldn't be careless when dealing with an enemy. Otherwise, he would be the one to die. Therefore, Yang Hongwu didn't dare to be careless when dealing with an enemy. No matter how weak the opponent was, Yang Hongwu didn't dare to be careless. This was a lesson learned through countless bloodshed. Since ancient times, it was unknown how many experts had been killed because they had underestimated their opponents. They had been killed by the weak. Wasn't the artifact spirit of a Nine Underworld's door killed by him because it was too careless and underestimated him? Yang Hongwu naturally wouldn't make such a mistake. Eat you. Your soul is mine. I'm going to eat you. The Dark Demon Beast roared and moved extremely fast. It appeared in front of Yang Hongwu in an instant. Yang Hongwu's soul formation didn't hinder the Dark Demon Beast at all. Eat my soul. Yang Hongwu laughed and said, Ridiculous. This is really ridiculous. I don't know how many Dark Demon Beasts I've killed. A mere 3-star Dark Demon Beast dares to be arrogant in front of me? Unless it's a 6-star Dark Demon Beast or above, it might cause me some trouble. However, you are too weak, really too weak. I'll let you see my power. After saying that, Yang Hongwu easily dodged the Dark Demon Beast's attack. He formed a seal with both hands, and ancient and mysterious runes condensed from Yang Hongwu's hands. These ancient and mysterious runes formed a powerful talisman. It was a beast-taming talisman. Beast-taming technique? Furukuradizuan was astonished when he saw the talisman. It wasn't an ordinary beast-taming talisman, but a soul beast-taming talisman. It was specially made for soul beast-taming talisman, and it had an amazing effect on the dark demon beast. It could be said that this beast-taming talisman had an astonishing suppressive effect on any soul-type exotic beasts, ferocious beasts, and evil beasts. However, this special beast-taming technique seemed to have been lost for a long time. No one knew this ancient beast-taming technique, but this time, Yang Hongwu actually used it. Moreover, judging from the situation, Yang Hongwu was very familiar with this beast-taming talisman. It seemed that he had already comprehended the great way of the universe of the soul beast-taming talisman. Could it be that Yang Hongwu had obtained the great way of the beast-taming universe and the great way of the talisman universe? Only those who had comprehended the two great daos of the universe at the same time could display the beast-taming talisman so easily. Otherwise, it would be impossible for others to display the beast-taming talisman so easily even if they had the beast-taming technique and the talisman technique. However, Furukuradizuan thought about Yang Hongwu's past life. In his past life, he was an incomparably powerful existence. Perhaps, for a cultivator of that level, comprehending a beast-taming talisman like this wouldn't be a difficult thing. No wonder he's so confident. Possessing the beast-taming talisman is indeed amazing. Perhaps this dark demon beast will bring some benefits to his strength. Seeing this, Furukuradizuan was completely relieved. This time, the weapon spirit of the 9 Underworld's Doors plan had failed. However, he had already sacrificed his soul and would never find out. In an instant, the talisman flew towards the dark demon beast. The dark demon beast felt the power of the talisman, but it didn't retreat. It wasn't afraid at all and continued to attack Yang Hongwu. It ignored Yang Hongwu's beast-taming talisman. It didn't seem to care at all. Generally speaking, dark demon beasts had their own consciousness and weren't stupid. However, this dark demon beast behavior seemed a little strange. Could it be that this dark demon beast didn't know about the beast-taming talisman? Yang Hongwu frowned slightly. Supreme Paragon Ancient Desolation was also curious. Logically speaking, any strange beast or demonic beast would feel fear when encountering a beast-taming talisman, and would want to retreat when faced with a beast-taming talisman. However, this dark demon beast didn't seem to have any changes. Yang Hongwu couldn't help but feel a little strange. When the beast-taming talisman landed on the dark demon beast's body, the dark demon beast's body trembled slightly and slowed down significantly. However, it wasn't controlled. Damned fellow. Do you really think a mere talisman can restrain me? You're too naive. We dark demondo, evil soul beasts have already received the blessings of our God. Now, we're no longer afraid of those damn talismans. You're dreaming if you want to use talismans to restrain me. The dark demon beast roared loudly. Its sharp claws and teeth were about to land on Yang Hongwu, but Yang Hongwu didn't give the dark demon beast the chance to do so. He instantly disappeared and reappeared in another location. Damned human. Do you think I won't be able to do anything if you keep dodging like this? Seeing that it missed again and again, the Dark Mador Evil Soul Beast was furious. In the next moment, the Dark Mador Evil Soul Beast's body trembled. Then it split into 2, then 4, then 8. 8 Dark Mador Evil Soul Beasts suddenly appeared. Good fellow, this is a cloning technique. Not bad. Yang Hongwu looked at the 8 Dark Devil Soul Beasts. Furthermore, these 8 Dark Devil Soul Beasts looked exactly the same as their original bodies. In other words, they were the real Dark Devil Soul Beasts. Even their strength was exactly the same. There was no difference at all. In other words, they were direct clones that were no different from the original. They were just as strong. This made Yang Hongwu envious. If his secret skill of 1 chi into 3 pure ones could change his body, this secret skill of doppelganger would be much more powerful than his doppelganger technique. If his secret skill of 1 chi into 3 pure ones could create more doppelgangers and change his body at any time, it would undoubtedly be a qualitative leap. Chapter 2248. If he could combine the Dark Demon Duo Evil Soul Beast Doppelganger technique with his own chi in a trinity, it would be of great help to him. Furthermore, it wouldn't be just a little bit of help. Of course, the difficulty of this was not ordinary. He had to capture the Dark Demon Soul Beasts alive or refine their spiritual consciousness. For any powerful spirit, it was much easier to kill them than to capture them alive or refine them. Creatures of this level would usually choose to perish together with their enemy at the most critical moment. While Yang Hongwu was thinking about this, 8 Dark Demon Soul Beasts surrounded Yang Hongwu from 8 different directions. There was no way to escape from the attacks, coming from all directions. However, Yang Hongwu had not expected this. He had never seen the Dark Demon Soul Beast use a cloning technique like this. In fact, this only surprised him a little. He knew the weaknesses of the Dark Demon Soul Beasts like the back of his hand. To him, Dark Devils at this level were mostly evil soul beasts. There was not much difference between one Dark Devil and a group of them. When the 8 Dark Demon Soul Beasts were about to attack Yang Hongwu disappeared from where he was and reappeared more than 10 feet away from the Dark Demon Soul Beasts. In the next moment, Yang Hongwu raised his hand and formed a series of hand seals. These hand seals were very similar to the previous hand seals, but there was a big difference. Although the changes were not big, they contained incredible power. The beast-taming talisman formed a beast-taming hoop in the void. This beast-taming hoop was the key. Beast-taming hoop? The Dark Demon Soul Beasts were shocked when they saw this. This beast-taming hoop seemed to have a special power. It was as if it was specially refined to deal with the Dark Demon Soul Beasts. The Dark Demon Soul Beasts were also a type of spirit beast. However, there was a big difference between them and true spirit beasts. In fact, they were essentially the same. They were originally spirit beasts. Later on, because they believed in the Dark Demon Soul God, their king became the Dark Demon Soul God's mount. That was how they became Dark Demon Soul Beasts. The beast-taming hoop made the Dark Demon Soul Beast feel that its power was being suppressed. It felt as if its soul was being controlled. It felt as if it was about to lose control of its own power. This made the Dark Demon Soul Beast very surprised. However, what made the Dark Demon Soul Beast even more surprised was that the formation seemed to have changed. Originally, because of the influence of its own power, the formation didn't have the slightest effect on it. But now, the formation actually emitted a spiritual pressure and runes appeared on the formation. It was the beast-taming talisman. The boy in front of it had actually integrated the beast-taming talisman into the formation. This was simply unheard of. Could it be that he had comprehended it himself? If that was the case, then this human boy's talent was too terrifying. He was simply the nemesis of the Dark Demon Soul Beasts. In ancient times, there was a fiend god that killed countless members of the Dark Demon Soul Beast clan. Even their king was almost killed. If it wasn't for the help of the Dark Demon Soul Beast clan, their king would have died at the hands of that fiend god. The entire Dark Demon Soul Beast clan still remembered the terror of that fiend god. In their ancestral land, there was still a statue of that fiend god. At the thought of this, the Dark Demon Soul Beast suddenly widened its eyes and looked at Yang Hongwu. This guy's appearance was very similar to the statue in their ancestral land. They looked almost exactly the same. Only their temperament and clothes were different. However, his appearance and demeanor were very similar. Could it be that this little cultivator, who was merely a sovereign, was actually the descendant of that fiendish god? If this was the case, that would be terrifying. That fiend god actually left behind a descendant. This news must be passed on to the clan. Otherwise, when this brat matured, it would be a devastating blow to the Dark Demon Soul Beast clan. Moreover, if it could pass on this information to the king and the Dark Demon Soul Beast clan, it would be a great contribution. It would be rewarded by both the king and the Dark Demon Soul Beast clan. At this thought, the Dark Demon Soul Beast clan's 7 clones charged towards Yang Hongwu. Its true body wanted to escape and return to the ancestral land to inform the king and the Dark Demon Soul Beast clan's clones. However, This action made Yang Hongwu notice something strange. The Dark Demon Soul Beast clan's clones wanted to escape. 7 of the 8 Dark Demon Soul Beasts were attacking him, while the remaining 1 didn't do anything. In fact, it seemed to be retreating. How could Yang Hongwu not notice this? Of course, he would pay special attention to this Dark Demon Soul Beast clan's clones. If it wasn't plotting something, then it was trying to escape. Plotting a sneak attack? Yang Hongwu didn't care about this at all. This was his own formation, his own space. In addition, he had the Eye of Life to monitor everything. It was simply impossible to play any tricks in his own space under his Eye of Life. As for escaping, Yang Hongwu couldn't help but smile. Impossible. This was his space. It was easy to enter, but how could it be so easy to leave? Yang Hongwu had completely sealed off the space. Only the soul body of a pinnacle universe overlord would be able to break through the space and escape. Obviously, this Dark Demon Soul Beast had not reached that level yet. Besides, this Dark Demon Soul Beast's mastery of the power of space was too weak. It was far from reaching that level. Hence, the sealing of this space was fatal to this Dark Demon Soul Beast. The moment the 7 Dark Demon Soul Beast clones attacked Yang Hongwu, the 7 Dark Demon Soul Beasts self-destructed. The Dark Demon Soul Beasts use a special power to communicate with the ancestral land of the Dark Demon Soul Beasts. They use the power of the ancestral land to tear through space and return to their ancestral land. The Dark Demon Soul Beast clan thought it could safely return to its ancestral land, but it was shocked to find that it couldn't communicate with its ancestral land at all. It couldn't activate the power of the ancestral land. This meant that it was completely isolated and trapped here. If you want to talk about the 9 Heavens Divine Dragon technique with more like-minded people, follow excellent reading literature on WeChat. Talk about life, find friends. Chapter 2249. This caused the Dark Demon Beast to feel despair. The power of this formation was far beyond its expectations. It couldn't even transmit its message, let alone escape. If it had known this would happen, it would have risked its life to perish together with this young man. But now, it understood that the possibility of perishing together with this young man was very slim. What? You want to escape? Yang Hongwu looked at the Dark Demon Soul Beast and said, "How can my space and formation be so simple? I've seen an expert kill countless Dark Devil Soul Beasts, but I've never seen an evil soul beast that can use clones like you. Hand over that cloning technique, and I'll give you a quick death. Damned human, let me go and I won't bother you again. Otherwise, you're dead. Do you know that? If my lord finds out, you'll die miserably. My lord is the wretched Dark Demon God. You can't even imagine how strong he is. Even invincible overlords are ants in front of him. You better not attack me and let me go, or you'll be dead. Do you understand?" Yang Hongwu didn't know whether to laugh or cry when the wretched Dark Demon God was still threatening him. Was there something wrong with this guy's head? How could it still threaten him at this time? Moreover, if its master was really that terrifying, its master, Wu Modwa Evil God, would come looking for trouble with him regardless of whether he let it go or not. Since that was the case, why should he let it go? However, Yang Hongwu also understood the Dark Demon Soul Beast strength. One had to know that an invincible overlord was a terrifying existence. It could be said that they stood at the peak of the endless void. However, this Dark Demon Soul Beast was even more terrifying than an invincible overlord. What kind of monster was this? Since your master is so powerful, let me see if he can save you. I can tell you with certainty that you've entered my territory to kill me. Therefore, I won't let you go. You must die here. However, if you hand over your cloning secret technique, I'll give you a quick death. Otherwise, I'll make you suffer endless pain. Do you understand?" After saying that, Yang Hongwu slightly raised his right hand, and a red flame appeared in his palm. It was the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. Although the karmic fire of the Red Lotus didn't seem very powerful, the Dark Demon Soul Beast was very wary of it. If it was in its peak state, the karmic fire of the Red Lotus wouldn't be able to cause any fatal injuries to it. However, if it was seriously injured and its soul was imprisoned, it would become the target of the karmic fire of the Red Lotus. Although the karmic fire of the red lotus wouldn't kill it, the pain would be endless. The dark demon soul beast was very clear about this because it had seen such a scene before. At that time, it wouldn't be able to kill itself even if it wanted to. Karmic fire. You want to use the karmic fire of the red lotus to burn my beast soul. Your heart is really vicious. However, I won't give you the chance. After saying that, the dark demon soul beast was about to detonate its beast soul. However, how could Yang Hongwu let it do as it wished? If they were in the outside world, Yang Hongwu wouldn't be able to stop the dark demon soul beast from detonating its beast soul. However, the dark demon soul beast was in its own space. At this moment, Yang Hongwu had complete control over the space and the space. It could be said that he was the god of this space, the only true god. He was omnipotent and no one could break this space. Of course, if it was in the outside world, a powerful great being, such as a great being at the level of a universe overlord, could still do it. However, there was still Furukura Daizuin in the outside world. Furukura Daizuin wouldn't let such a thing happen. Because of this, Yang Hongwu wasn't worried at all. The moment the dark demon soul beast was about to detonate its beast soul, Yang Hongwu shouted, "Soul prison seal." As Yang Hongwu's voice fell, a powerful law appeared. This was the power of a world master, the master of this space. As the master of this space, his words were the law. Once the law was issued, the law in this space would create powerful law shackles according to the law. The appearance of this law shackled the dark demon soul beast's beast soul. It couldn't control it at all. It couldn't detonate its beast soul at all. Everything was in vain. The dark demon soul beast wasn't the only one who was stunned. Furukura Daizuin was also in disbelief. How is this possible? This is a law decree. How can there be such an existence in this space and this soul array? Indeed, in a world or a universe, a world master or master of the universe could do this. However, at this moment, Yang Hongwu's space was neither a world nor a universe. Although Yang Hongwu was the master of this space, it was absolutely impossible for him to form such a decree in this space. Yang Hongwu was the master of this space, but it was absolutely impossible for him to form such a decree in this space. However, Yang Hongwu had become the absolute ruler of this space. He was able to form decrees, and his words were the law of the land. This left him flabbergasted. How did he do it? He wasn't in his own inner world or universe, but he could activate a law decree and make it follow the law. It was truly inconceivable. If he could learn this secret technique, then his own strength would be enhanced by an astonishing amount. Of course, Furukura Daizuin was a great figure. How could he lower himself and ask Yang Hongwu, a sovereign realm cultivator, for advice? He was a half-step invincible overlord. He was only one step away from becoming a true, invincible overlord. It was impossible for him to lower himself and learn this secret technique from Yang Hongwu. Moreover, he couldn't steal this secret technique by force. Thinking of this, Furukura Daizuin couldn't help but sigh. Yang Hongwu was too mysterious. His previous life was really powerful. Yang Hongwu's secrets were far more complicated than what he saw now. He didn't know how many more incredible secrets there were. Right now, what he had seen was probably only the tip of the iceberg. However, the stronger Yang Hongwu was, the more beneficial it would be for him. There was no need to doubt this point. It proved that the choice he had made was correct. Chapter 2250. Nothing is impossible. In my eyes, anything is possible. Yang Hongwu looked at the dark demon soul beast. This beast soul was indeed very powerful. If he could refine it and erase its memories, he could fuse its beast soul into a mechanical beast to become an extremely powerful mechanical beast. This was a very ideal choice. In fact, Yang Hongwu had studied mechanical beasts before. However, as his cultivation continued to increase, he gave up on mechanical beasts. Now, Yang Hongwu had another idea. For him, he was always in danger and constantly fighting. He didn't care about himself, but his women couldn't be like this. They needed to be protected. Therefore, it was a very good choice to find some special beast souls, refine them, and create powerful mechanical beasts. Each of them would have a group of powerful mechanical beasts that could be used for both offense and defense. This would be very helpful to him. Even if he was in a powerful battle, he wouldn't have to worry about the safety of his women. Moreover, under special circumstances, he could also use these mechanical beasts to fight against enemies. This was much better than having subordinates. Thinking of this, Yang Hongwu was very excited. This was a very good test subject. This time, not only could he obtain the cloning method of the Dark Demon Soul Beast, but he could also obtain the beast soul of the Dark Demon Soul Beast. That would be a very good thing. Of course, things often wouldn't be so satisfying. How could reality let one's wish come true? Therefore, at this time, although Yang Hongwu controlled the Dark Demon Soul Beast so that it couldn't self-detonate, it still wasn't that easy to deal with. Although it couldn't self-detonate, its beast soul began to burn. It was self-immolation. At this time, Yang Hongwu discovered that there was a seed in the Dark Demon Soul Beast body. He didn't notice this seed in a moment of carelessness. Once the Dark Demon Soul Beast lost control, this seed would ignite and destroy the entire Dark Demon Soul Beast. Annihilation. In an instant, the Dark Demon Soul Beast's beast soul was annihilated in Yang Hongwu's space and turned into the purest energy. This majestic spiritual power was very beneficial to Yang Hongwu. However, at this time, Yang Hongwu didn't dare to casually refine this energy. This was because Yang Hongwu was very worried that the seed in the Dark Demon Soul Beast body could annihilate the Dark Demon Soul Beast and turn it into pure energy. This was obviously the method of the Dark Demon Soul Beast. This spiritual energy seemed very pure, without the slightest impurity. However, Yang Hongwu didn't dare be certain that this spiritual energy didn't contain the remnants of the Wuma evil god's special power. If he fused this power, would he become the Dark Demon Soul Beast puppet like the Dark Demon Soul Beast? Life and death under his control. If this was the case, then the Dark Demon Soul Beast was too frightening and powerful. Ordinary people simply couldn't contend against him. Even Farouk Kuradaizuan was far from being his match. This was why Yang Hongwu was so hesitant and didn't dare to make a move. Supreme Sovereign Ancient Desolation also noticed this, but he remained silent. He knew that he would never be able to do such a thing. Perhaps even an invincible overlord would not be able to do such a thing. This meant that the person controlling the Dark Demon Soul Beast was as strong as the Dark Demon Soul Beast had said. He had surpassed the invincible overlord realm. He knew that he wasn't a match for such an expert. At this level, the difference of a small level was a heavenly tribulation. Moreover, he hadn't even reached the invincible overlord realm, let alone the realm above it. Only death awaited him if they were to meet. However, it would be difficult for him to escape now. Fortunately, he didn't do anything. Nevertheless, Yang Hongwu was in big trouble. If the master wanted to target Yang Hongwu, he probably wouldn't do anything to him. Farouk Kuradaizuan couldn't help but laugh at this thought. Since when did he become so timid? He wasn't even a match for a sovereign cultivator like Yang Hongwu. It seemed that he had lost the will to fight. If a cultivator did not even have the will to fight, then he would not make any progress. Upon having this thought, Supreme Monarch Ancient Desolation's mind flickered as he came to a realization. This was also the reason why his cultivation had not made any progress all this time. He had never been able to cross the threshold. It turned out that he had lost the will to fight bravely and fearlessly. He no longer had the drive he had when he was young. He no longer had the courage to risk everything. If he wanted to make any progress in his cultivation, there was no other way. The only way was to restore his fighting spirit. While Farouk Kuradaizuan was deep in thought, Yang Hongwu opened up the space and condensed the majestic and pure energy in his space into an energy ball. Senior, this is the spiritual energy body produced by the annihilation of the Dark Demon Beast soul. Is there a terrifying expert's plan in this energy? Yang Hongwu looked at Farouk Kuradaizuan and asked. This energy was very tempting to Yang Hongwu. Yang Hongwu knew very well that if he really refined this energy, his soul would be greatly improved. For any living creature, the soul was always the most fundamental thing. Although the physical body was the foundation, if the soul was lost, the physical body would be meaningless no matter how strong it was. The soul and the physical body were interdependent. If the physical body was strong, the soul would also be strong enough. Otherwise, a strong physical body wouldn't be enough. Yang Hongwu's current weakness was that his soul was too weak. This could be considered one of the weaknesses. Of course, compared to other cultivators, his soul was strong enough. He had been constantly improving his soul. He had to make his soul stronger. In this way, it would be compatible with a strong physical body and be able to bear more power. Strength, in the true sense, was the strength of the soul and the physical body. Only when these two reached the extreme would it be considered true strength. Book Guesthouse Reading Website. Chapter 2251. I'm not sure about that either. Furukura Daizuin shook his head. Indeed, he wasn't completely sure. After all, he couldn't tell that the dark demon soul beast had the seed of that great being in its body. As for the remaining pure soul energy, Furukura Daizuin didn't dare to give a definite answer. Even he didn't dare to refine this mass of energy. After all, he didn't know if there were other schemes behind it. His opponent's cultivation had completely exceeded his expectations. Even you aren't sure about it. Yang Hongwu was a little disappointed. This massive energy was very tempting to Yang Hongwu, but he didn't have the guts to refine it directly. It would be a pity if he didn't refine it and gave it up. If the power of that great being was really in it, then it would be like a ticking time bomb with him. He didn't know when it would explode. Throw it away? It would be a pity to throw it away just like that. Give it to me, and give it to Supreme, Venerable Blazing Sunday. After all, you don't dare to use it in your hands. Give it to Supreme, Venerable Blazing Sunday. Give it to him, Furukura Daizuin said. Although Supreme, Venerable Blazing Sun had refined the universe's great path of Supreme, Venerable Yumen, his strength hadn't recovered yet. His soul power, in particular, had suffered a great deal of damage. His soul power couldn't be recovered in a short time. If he could refine this mass of soul energy, then his strength would be restored, and he might even reach the level of a late-stage universe overlord. Of course, it would be worth it for him. Although the 9 Underworlds Gate was very powerful, in the eyes of Supreme Venerate Blazing Sun, it was just a slightly more powerful treasure. It was not particularly compatible with him, nor was it particularly compatible with Supreme Venerate Serene Sect. It seemed to have an owner. If not, Supreme Venerate Blazing Sun would not have left the 9 Underworlds Gate to Supreme Venerate Serene Sect when he accepted Supreme Venerate Serene Sect as his disciple. After all, an incomparably powerful treasure was what everyone dreamed of. Even if it was left to one's own disciple, one wouldn't be so generous. At this time, Supreme Venerable Blazing Sun urgently needed to restore his strength, and Furukura Daizuin was also there. This mass of soul energy was, in fact, something that Supreme Venerable Blazing Sun urgently needed. Therefore, using this mass of soul energy to end this karma was something that Supreme Venerable Blazing Sun couldn't wish for. Well, since you say so, I'll give it to him. Yang Hanwu nodded when he heard Furukura Daizuin's words. Although he was still a little reluctant, it was also a good thing if he could end this karma and prevent Supreme Venerable Blazing Sun from targeting him. After all, it wasn't a good thing to be targeted by a universe overlord. Besides, this could also divert the hatred of evil god Wumadwa. What if evil god Wumadwa was really so terrifying and wanted to take revenge? Therefore, it was better to be careful. Yang Hanwu couldn't help laughing when he thought of this. When did he become so timid? He was so worried about personal gains and losses that he wasn't as rational and decisive as before. It seemed that he had indeed changed a little. Yang Hanwu wasn't too sure whether this change was good or bad. However, this wasn't the time to think about this. For him, improving his cultivation was the most important thing. Since he had obtained the 9 Underworlds Gate, it was time to refine it and break through the bottleneck of the Peak Ruler Realm. After being stuck at this level for so long, it was time for him to enter the Tao Lord realm. You're promising. Furukura Daizuin couldn't help but nod when he saw Yang Hongwu hand over the ball of soul energy so readily. Senior, I'll have to trouble you to protect me while I refine the 9 Underworld's Gate, Yang Hongwu said to Furukura Daizuin. After all, Yang Hongwu couldn't wait any longer. Moreover, things like this might change if he delayed. Yang Hongwu wanted to refine the 9 Underworld's Gate as soon as possible and raise his cultivation to the Tao Lord level. This was because everything was fake to Yang Hongwu. Only strength could give him a sense of security. Everything else wasn't important. To Yang Hongwu, even the protection of a universe overlord like Furukura Daizuin wasn't enough to make Yang Hongwu feel at ease. All right, it's time for you to break through the bottleneck of the Tao Lord realm. After all, your strength is still too weak. Once you encounter a truly strong enemy, you won't even have a chance to escape. I don't want to see that happen. Furukura Daizuin said, just refine the 9 Underworld's Gate. With me protecting you, nothing will happen to you. Yang Hongwu nodded. Then I'll have to trouble you, senior. With that, Yang Hongwu waved his hand and set up an array formation. Although this array formation seemed to have been set up casually, it was Yang Hongwu's most powerful array formation. With the life seal as the core, it was supplemented by the Hong Meng Saber, the Sacred Tree of Fortune, the Scroll of Fortune, and other powerful treasures. The power of this array formation could be said to be incomparably powerful. In fact, the offensive power of this array formation wasn't particularly strong. However, it was extremely protective. At a critical moment, this array formation could directly teleport Yang Hongwu away from this great cosmos. This was because Yang Hongwu's array formation contained a planar boat. This planar boat, coupled with Yang Hongwu's space mystique, could easily teleport him away. This was one of his greatest life-saving trump cards. Furukura Daizuin was extremely shocked when he saw the array formation that Yang Hongwu had casually set up. Yang Hongwu's attainments in the Tao of array formations had already reached an extremely high level. If he could comprehend the great Tao of array formations, then he would be even more powerful and terrifying in the Tao of array formations. The Tao of array formations was a very special great Tao of the universe. If he could comprehend it and derive his own great Tao of array formations, then his strength would improve tremendously. Since ancient times, there had been very few cultivators who had comprehended the great Tao of array formations. However, those who had truly comprehended it were undoubtedly unrivaled powerhouses. Yang Hongwu took out the devouring furnace in the array formation. The 9 Underworld's Gate, which had already lost the existence of its weapon spirit, didn't resist at all before it was sent into the furnace by Yang Hongwu. However, Yang Hongwu had a vague feeling that refining the 9 Underworld's Gate wouldn't be an easy task, even though he had already obliterated the weapon spirit of the 9 Underworld's Gate. As expected, even though the 9 Underworld's Gate had lost its weapon spirit and had been sent into the devouring furnace, the 9 Underworld's Gate was like a stone in a latrine. It was smelly and hard. No matter how hard the devouring furnace tried to refine it, it couldn't do anything to the 9 Underworld's Gate. Yang Hongwu even tried to imprint his spiritual mark on the 9 Underworld's Gate, but he couldn't do it. Chapter 2252. It's just a door. Do you really think that I don't have a temper? If you don't give me face, I'll destroy you. Yang Hongwu stared at the 9 Underworld's door. He was really annoyed. It really didn't give him any face. Was it that difficult to refine the 9 Underworld's door? Yang Hongwu didn't believe it. At this moment, the 9 Underworld's door actually shook as though it was provoking him. This made Yang Hongwu even angrier. Strange. Was it the weapon spirit of the 9 Underworld's door gone? Why did it become like this? Could it be that this was the true weapon spirit of the 9 Underworld's door? Since that was the case, it would be troublesome. It would be quite difficult for him to refine the 9 Underworld's door. Troublesome. It was really troublesome. You really don't give me face? Right now, I don't have any way to destroy you. However, this doesn't mean that my strength will be like this for the rest of my life. In the future, when my strength increases, I believe that I can still destroy you." At this moment, Yang Hongwu was really annoyed. He said, "If you don't obediently let me refine you, I'll destroy you when I'm strong enough. I'm a man of my words." At this moment, something that surprised Yang Hongwu happened. Before Yang Hongwu could refine the 9 underworlds door, Yang Hongwu felt a special connection between him and the 9 underworlds door. At this moment, the 9 underworlds door had automatically recognized him as its master. Automatically recognizing him as its master was an inconceivable thing. He didn't expect the 9 underworlds door to recognize him as its master. It seemed that it really had its own consciousness. The one that he killed wasn't the true weapon spirit of the 9 underworlds door. The true consciousness of the 9 underworlds door, the true weapon spirit, was still very good. However, he had to admit that the 9 underworlds door was really bullying the weak and fearing the strong. If he didn't threaten it fiercely, this guy really wouldn't give him any face. After the 9 underworlds door recognized him as its master, Yang Hongwu felt a majestic energy rushing into his soul consciousness. At this moment, the cursed shackles in his soul consciousness were broken. The moment the cursed shackles were broken, Yang Hongwu's strength recovered to its limit. The bottleneck of the pinnacle of the ruler realm was nothing at all. The bottleneck was instantly broken through. Tao Lord. At this moment, Yang Hongwu had truly entered the Tao Lord realm. Tao flowers bloomed in the air, the symbol of becoming a Tao Lord. Yang Hongwu had finally broken through the shackles of the sovereign realm. After becoming a Tao Lord, Yang Hongwu's aura had become extremely powerful. Compared to before, it was like the difference between heaven and earth. Furthermore, at the instant Yang Hongwu's cultivation base broke through, the common people's great world within his body also underwent a huge change. The power of heaven and earth within the common people's great world received a shocking increase, and the laws underwent a metamorphosis. The living beings within the common people's great world felt their own changes, the change in the power of heaven and earth, and the changes in their own bodies. This series of changes made them wild with joy. They knew very well that the changes in the world were extremely beneficial to them. Many cultivators who were stuck at a bottleneck and unable to break through all broke through one by one. All the living beings within the common people's great world received incomparably great benefits. At the same time, in the common people's great world, the divine tree of fortune was madly absorbing the chi of fortune from the endless void. It integrated the chi of fortune into the common people's great world, causing the common people's great world to be constantly upgraded and the chi of fortune to be constantly replenished. In the outside world, Furukura Daizuan, who was guarding Yang Hongwu, was extremely shocked when he saw this scene. Yang Hongwu, this brat, was really incredible. He actually managed to refine the 9 underworlds door. He could even tell that the 9 underworlds door had automatically recognized him as its master. At the beginning, the 9 underworlds door was still resisting. Unexpectedly, in such a short period of time, the 9 underworlds door had automatically recognized him as its master. The weapon spirit of the 9 underworlds door had been destroyed by Yang Hongwu, and it had even left behind a curse on Yang Hongwu's body. Unexpectedly, the 9 underworlds door had directly recognized him as its master. This was too shocking. This was something that even Furukura Daizuan did not dare to believe. It was not strange that the 9 underworlds door's weapon spirit and self-awareness had been wiped away. After all, the 9 underworlds door was not that simple. However, what made Furukura Daizuan very surprised was that Yang Hongwu had actually obtained the 9 underworlds door's recognition so easily. It did not even give Yang Hongwu any test. This was the truly strange thing. Perhaps this was because of Yang Hongwu's previous life. After all, in his previous life, Yang Hongwu was an incomparably powerful expert. Now that he had reincarnated, although his cultivation was far from the level of his previous life, he would eventually recover and return to his peak. He might even surpass his original peak and reach another peak. However, this required time. If Yang Hongwu could really return to his peak, or even surpass his original peak, then it would not be strange for the Nine Underworld's door to recognize him as its master. After all, how terrifying and powerful was Yang Hongwu when he was at his peak in his previous life? Farouk Kuradaizuan did not know this, but he was certain that Yang Hongwu's peak was extremely terrifying. It was not something that he could compare to, or even an existence that he could only look up to. It was also because of this that Farouk Kuradaizuan did not have any ill intentions towards Yang Hongwu. He did not dare to have any thoughts about Yang Hongwu. If it was someone else, perhaps they would really take the risk and attack Yang Hongwu. After all, if they could seize Yang Hongwu's previous life's great Tao of the universe, then they would have the opportunity to reach a higher level and reach the level of Yang Hongwu's previous life. However, Farouk Kuradaizuan knew very well that since such an expert had reincarnated, how could he leave behind any hidden dangers? In the end, those who dared to plot against him and attack him would definitely not have a good ending. Unless their strength was stronger than Yang Hongwu's previous life, then they would have a chance of succeeding. Otherwise, everything would be a fool's dream, and they would definitely become Yang Hongwu's stepping stone. Farouk Kuradaizuan did not want to become such a stepping stone. On the contrary, if he could follow Yang Hongwu's footsteps and help Yang Hongwu greatly before Yang Hongwu grew up, then in the future, when Yang Hongwu attained the great Tao, it would be of great benefit to him. It would also be of great help to him in the future. Cause and effect, cause and effect. If there was a cause, there would be an effect. Wasn't this what Farouk Kuradaizuan wanted? Of course, now that Farouk Kuradaizuan was helping Yang Hongwu, if Yang Hongwu did not grow up, it might be a loss for Farouk Kuradaizuan. But in fact, the loss would not be great. After all, any investment was risky. However, everything was worth it. Compared to the benefits he would gain in the future, it was all worth it. Once he succeeded, he would gain huge benefits, unimaginable benefits. Chapter 2253. That's not right. This kid's cultivation is still breaking through. Farouk Kuradaizuan had thought that Yang Hongwu's cultivation would stop after he reached the Tao Lord realm. However, judging from the current situation, Yang Hongwu's aura was still rising. His aura was even more terrifying than when he had just broken through. The speed of his growth was even more shocking. This meant that Yang Hongwu's cultivation was still rising. First level Tao Lord. Second level Tao Lord. It was still going on. In the void, majestic energy was descending. Countless Tao flowers merged into Yang Hongwu's common people's great world. In Yang Hongwu's great world, the creatures also received amazing benefits and continued to improve. This was a feast. To the living beings of the common people's world, this was a huge feast. It allowed their cultivation base and their souls to be greatly improved, sublimated, and transformed. The entire common people's great world was transforming. Yang Hongwu's cultivation was also rising steadily. His aura became even more terrifying. In just a short while, Yang Hongwu's cultivation had reached the third level Tao Lord realm. This cultivation speed was really shocking. Of course, the energy condensed from the void and the Tao flowers descending were also very shocking. Such a huge change caught Farouk Kuradaizuan a little unprepared. He had not expected this at all. Who knew that Yang Hongwu's breakthrough would cause such a huge change? Most likely, everyone in the vicinity of the void had sensed the huge change. It was too late for him to seal the space now. It meant that the experts in the void had already discovered the situation. Several powerful auras were rushing over here. Edited by Lifer, Fingerfox. Not only were there some powerful cultivators, but there were also some powerful resurrected cultivators who were rushing over. And there were a lot of them. There were 4 to 5 resurrected great beings, and there were also 3 to 4 universe overlord level cultivators who had come. These people were probably coming for Yang Hongwu. They must have thought that some great treasure had appeared here. Of course, if they were to encounter resurrected great beings, these universe overlords would definitely not tangle with them. They were very cunning, so they would definitely hide in the dark. these universe overlords had all cultivated for so many years. To be able to reach their current level, they were not simple. How could they be targeted by resurrected masters at such a crucial time? They all had their own plans and methods to hide their auras. In fact, Farouk Erdaizuan could also do it. He could even help young Hongwu hide his aura. However, in this situation, he could not do so. Yang Hongwu was still cultivating. At this time, those powerful auras had already rushed here and locked onto this place. This brat is in trouble now. Farukura Daizuan felt that those powerful auras were getting closer and closer. He felt a little helpless. It was not the right time to leave. At this time, he could not just leave young Hongwu alone. Moreover, those great beings had already captured his aura. It seemed a little too late to leave now. Not far away, Blazing Sun, who was refining that ball of soul power to restore his cultivation, was completely dumbfounded at this time. Several powerful auras were already approaching this place. This was not a joke. Of course, he had also sensed the changes caused by Yang Hongwu's cultivation, but he had never thought that Yang Hongwu would also cause such a huge change. Compared to when he had merged with Supreme Venerable Yu Min's great Tao of the universe, the changes were much stronger. This brat really knows how to cause trouble. Not only did he refine the 9 underworld door, but he also caused such a terrible trouble. Is this brat really a jinx? He did not know why that great being was so interested in this brat. At this moment, in Blazing Sun's opinion, this brat Yang Hongwu was a jinx. Anyone who had anything to do with this brat would not benefit from it. He glanced at Farukura Daizuan. At this time, Farukura Daizuan was indeed frowning as he thought. Farukura Daizuan, what should we do now? Let's leave this place quickly. Those powerful auras aren't something that the two of us can contend against. If there are only 2 or 3 of them, we might be able to fight them if we join forces. However, there are more than 2 or 3 of them now. With so many experts eyeing us, the 2 of us aren't their opponents at all. Blazing Sun did not want to die at this time. However, if he wanted to escape alone, it would be a problem. In that case, he could only drag Farukura Daizuan with him. After all, they were being watched by powerful auras from all directions. As such, he could only work together with the ancient Desolation Supreme Monarch to create an opening. If he were to act alone, he wouldn't have a good ending. If he were to be injured, those fellows would probably pounce on him like a pack of hungry wolves. At that time, he would definitely be doomed. After all, they were still in the period of martyrdom, right? The period of martyrdom was not over yet. The resurrected powerhouses still existed. These resurrected powerhouses were very sensitive to cultivators at the universe overlord level. Once they were injured, they would be able to find them. This was also the reason why cultivators at their level did not dare to act rashly during the period of martyrdom. Once they acted and were injured, they would be easily targeted. Previously, he was already injured. Even though he had recovered from his injuries, it was still the same. Once he was injured again, it would be almost impossible for him to avoid the search of those resurrected powerhouses. This was extremely fatal to him. It was because of this that Blazing Sun had no choice but to stay with Farukura Daizuan. After all, it was safest to stay with Farukura Daizuan. However, if Farukura Daizuan wanted to protect Yang Hongwu and stay with Yang Hongwu, it was very likely that the 2 of them would be implicated. This was also a huge problem for Blazing Sunday. If he left alone, he would not be confident. If he stayed, it would also be very dangerous. This was a dilemma. Of course, Farukura Daizuan was also a sensible person. Blazing Sun knew that Farukura Daizuan would not risk his life for Yang Hongwu, right? For cultivators at their level, it was impossible for them to risk their lives for anyone or even their cultivation future. It was impossible. Wait a little longer. Farukura Daizuan shook his head. Wait a moment. If Yang Hongwu does not wake up and is still cultivating, we will leave first. Sure enough, as soon as Farukura Daizuan said this, Blazing Sun heaved a sigh of relief. Even if Farukura Daizuan valued Yang Hongwu, he would not put himself in danger for Yang Hongwu. This was human nature. Only when there was no other way would one do something like that. Obviously, Farouk Hurdaizuan had not reached that point yet. All right, Blazing Sun nodded. However, Yang Hongwu did not seem to feel the impending danger. His cultivation base was still rising, and he was erupting with even greater power, causing even greater changes. Chapter 2254. The entire void seemed to be celebrating. Tao flowers fell from the sky, golden lotuses sprouted from the ground, and the sound of the great Tao reverberated throughout the void as though it was celebrating something. This time, Farouk Hurdaizuan panicked. He was really panicking. If he didn't leave now, he was afraid that he wouldn't be able to leave anymore. Why are we leaving? If this continues, I'm afraid we'll all be buried together with this kid. Great Venerable Blazing Sun was also very anxious and said to Farouk Hurdaizuan. Farouk Hurdaizuan turned back and glanced at Yang Hongwu again. He gritted his teeth and said, Go now. Just as the two were about to leave, the changes in the void suddenly disappeared. All the power of the Great Tao and the Great Tao laws suddenly integrated into Yang Hongwu's body. He opened his eyes. At this moment, Yang Hongwu's cultivation had risen to the 4th level Tao Lord realm, which was the mid-stage Tao Lord realm. Although this cultivation realm was nothing in the eyes of universe overlords like Farouk Hurdaizuan and could even be easily killed, Yang Hongwu was different. As a mid-stage Tao Lord realm cultivator, Yang Hongwu could defeat any Tao Lord expert. Even Tao masters were no match for him. If he relied on other forces, Yang Hongwu wouldn't be at a disadvantage against great Tao masters. However, he still had a long way to go against universe overlords. After all, universe overlords were too powerful. Seniors, what are you doing? After Yang Hongwu opened his eyes, he saw Farouk Hurdaizuan and Great Venerable Blazing Sun looking anxious as though they were being chased by something. He was puzzled. Could it be that they had encountered a powerful enemy? It's too late, kid. Let's go. Farouk Hurdaizuan grabbed Yang Hongwu and fled into the distance. The moment Yang Hongwu and the other two disappeared, a powerful aura appeared and chased after them. Let's go. I don't know who found us. I must get this opportunity. This was an expert. His entire body was red and filled with boundless killing intent. Clearly, he wasn't someone to be trifled with. This was the Massacre Sovereign. He was the most decisive person in the entire void who cultivated the Massacre Tao. In fact, the Slaughter Great Tao was similar to the 10-direction killing fist that Yang Hongwu had practiced before. Of course, the Slaughter Great Tao was much more powerful than the 10-direction killing fist. If the 10-direction killing fist reached its peak, one could comprehend the Slaughter Great Tao. The moment Yang Hongwu was taken away by Farouk Hurdaizuan, he also felt the terrifying killing intent. This was the will to kill to the extreme. It was extremely terrifying. What kind of existence is that? Such a terrifying killing intent? Yang Hongwu took a deep breath. He had never seen such a terrifying murderous aura. This was simply a supreme killing machine. Such murderous aura was too terrifying. Those with weak cultivation would not be able to withstand such a murderous aura. Even Yang Hongwu, who had cultivated the killing intent of the all-directional killing fist, found it difficult to withstand such a terrifying killing intent. If he hadn't broken through and was still in the sovereign realm, he would have been seriously injured by such a strand of killing intent. He might even have fallen into the murderous consciousness and become a slave to killing, a puppet that only knew how to kill. These guys are all attracted by you. Kid, you're really amazing. Farouk Hurdaizuan smiled bitterly at this time. Our troubles have just begun. There's only one person, the Massacre Sovereign. His strength is comparable to mine. However, I may not be his opponent in a real battle. His Slaughter Great Tao is too terrifying. I attracted them? Hearing this, Yang Hongwu was completely dumbfounded. How is this possible? Senior, you're not joking with me, right? I'm just a little cultivator in the sovereign realm. I'm too weak. How could I attract the attention of such an expert? Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Kid, if it's not you, who else could it be? Could it be us? At this time, Blazing Sun was somewhat annoyed and said, "When one's cultivation reaches our level, we can hide our aura. Moreover, even if our aura leaked out, it's impossible to attract these experts. There's only one possibility, and that's you." What? Yang Hongwu was still a little confused. He couldn't understand how he could attract these experts. Furukura Daizun shook his head and said, "Yes, it's indeed you. When you broke through, you caused a change in the void. Dao flowers fell, golden lotuses sprouted from the ground, and the sound of the great Dao resounded in this part of the void. How could such a huge change not attract the attention of other experts? This is something I didn't expect at all. If I had expected it, I would have sealed this part of the void, but it's too late." This was indeed something Furukura Daizun hadn't expected. Yang Hongwu had only broken through to the Dao Lord realm, but he had caused such a huge change in the void. It should be known that such a change was difficult to cause even when a great Dao Master broke through to the Universe Overlord realm. Generally, such a situation would only occur when an extremely powerful true treasure appeared in the void, or when a supreme great Dao of the universe was born. The birth of such a supreme great Dao of the universe would also cause various great Daos to resonate and celebrate. Whether it was the birth of an extremely powerful great Dao true treasure or a supreme great Dao of the universe, it would attract experts. If it was a great Dao true treasure, of course, they would want to obtain it. If it was a supreme great Dao of the universe, they would want to comprehend it. All of this was very beneficial to them. Therefore, it wasn't surprising that such a change would attract these experts to chase after it. If it were just these universe experts, they wouldn't be too worried. However, there were resurrected experts among them. These resurrected experts were different. They were quite crazy. Am I that capable? Yang Hongwu smiled bitterly and said, "Senior, what should we do now?" Yang Hongwu was also worried now. Although his strength had increased tremendously, he knew his own situation. He was invincible against Dao Lords, and he wasn't afraid of Dao Masters. Yang Hongwu also didn't care about great Dao Masters. Even if he couldn't defeat them, he would have no problem escaping. However, if he were to encounter a universe overlord, it would be over. It was completely impossible for him to confront them head-on. Even if he were to launch a sneak attack, it would be impossible for him to succeed. The gap between them was just too big. Yang Hongwu wasn't a fool. He wouldn't become arrogant just because of a small breakthrough in his cultivation. If that was the case, he would really be seeking his own death. Right now, the only person he could rely on was Furukura Daizun. If you want to talk about the 9 Heavens Divine Dragon technique with more like-minded people, follow excellent reading literature on WeChat. Talk about life, find confidence. Chapter 2255. Without Furukura Daizun, Yang Hongwu didn't know what would have happened. It was simply unrealistic for him to face a universe overlord by himself. Yang Hongwu wouldn't be so arrogant as to think that he could contend with a universe overlord. This was simply unrealistic and impossible unless his cultivation base could reach the level of a great Dao Knight. However, this required time and sufficient resources. What else can we do now? Leave this place. Furukura Daizun said snappily. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have stayed here and provoked such a huge trouble. Yang Hongwu was speechless upon hearing this. Yang Hongwu was skeptical about these words. Of course, no matter what Furukura Daizun was thinking, he had to thank him. After all, Furukura Daizun had done a lot for him. At least, before Furukura Daizun harbored any ill intentions towards him, Yang Hongwu had treated him well. Gratitude must be repaid. This was Yang Hongwu's principle. Now, Furukura Daizun could be said to be a great benefactor to him. Since Furukura Daizun said so, he would believe him for the time being. You brat, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, how could we have attracted such a huge trouble? Blazing Sun was very angry. If I had known this would happen, I wouldn't have agreed to Furukura Daizun and let you have the 9 remoteness door. If he hadn't given the 9 remoteness door to Yang Hongwu, he wouldn't have caused such a big commotion. Without such a big commotion, it naturally wouldn't have attracted these powerful guys. Not good. Massacre Great Master is coming. At this moment, Furukura Daizuen's expression changed. This guy is really difficult to deal with. Let's go quickly. If we get entangled with them, the other experts will quickly catch up with us. At that time, we will be in even greater trouble. Supreme Venerate Blazing Sun was also very anxious. Although Great Venerate Slaughterer was very powerful, if he and Supreme Venerate Ancient Desolation joined forces, they wouldn't be afraid of Great Venerate Slaughterer. However, the key problem was that this wasn't just a matter of Great Venerate Slaughterer. There were many other fellows who wanted to take advantage of the situation. These fellows weren't easy to provoke. Not to mention, there were also those resurrected powerhouses. Once he was entangled with them, he would be in deep trouble. We can't leave, Furukura Daizuen said with a bitter smile. This is troublesome. I really can't leave. Supreme Venerate Blazing Sun also had a bitter look on his face. Several powerful auras had surrounded them, and one of them was Supreme Venerate Slaughter. There were 3 universe overlords and several great beings at the level of Great Down Knights and half-step universe overlords. To Furukura Daizuen and Supreme Venerate Blazing Sun, they only cared about the 3 powerful universe overlords, Supreme Venerate Slaughter. As for the other half-step universe overlords, they didn't care about them at all. Half-step universe overlords posed no threat to them. However, the 3 universe overlords were different. Under normal circumstances, given the current strength of Furukura Daizuen and Supreme Venerate Blazing Sun, they wouldn't be afraid of them. However, now was the time of martyrdom. During this period of time, if they were injured in a fight, they would definitely be targeted by those resurrected great beings. These resurrected great beings weren't ordinary cultivators. They didn't care about their lives and would attack crazily. No matter what, to them, killing one of them was already a gain. Even if they died together, it was still a gain. Therefore, what Furukura Daizuen was most worried about wasn't Great Venerate Slaughter and the others in front of him, but the resurrected great beings behind them. Great Venerate Slaughter. Furukura Daizuen, I didn't expect it to be you. You got the opportunity. Hand it over, and I won't make things difficult for you. Great Venerate Slaughter looked at Furukura Daizuen and said, There's no opportunity. You're wrong. Furukura Daizuen shook his head. No opportunity? Do you think I'm a child? Dao flowers are falling, golden lotuses are emerging from the ground, and the sound of great Dao is resounding throughout the void. If this isn't a great opportunity, then what is? Do you want to take it all for yourself? That depends on whether we agree or not. Great Venerate Slaughter stared at Furukura Daizuen, his voice filled with strong fighting spirit. If Furukura Daizuen didn't give him a satisfactory answer, he was afraid that he would attack. Great Venerate Slaughter, I'm not afraid of you. Your strength is on par with mine. If I want to escape, you can't stop me. Now is the critical moment, the time of sacrifice. If we fight to the death, it won't do you or me any good. We'll only fall into the endless pursuit of the resurrected great beings. Do you want this result? Furukura Daizuen looked at Great Venerate Slaughter and said coldly. He really didn't want to be entangled with Great Venerate Slaughter for too long. This guy was very difficult to deal with. Even if they fought one-on-one, Furukura Daizuen wasn't confident that he could defeat Great Venerate Slaughter. So what? I don't care. What I care about is the opportunity to advance to the invincible Overlord realm. I can feel it. It's my opportunity. Great Venerate Slaughter looked at Furukura Daizuen and said, You should know how important it is to me. Hearing this, Ancient Desolation Sovereign frowned. This was going to be troublesome. It seemed that Slaughter Sovereign would not give up easily. Nobody would give up the opportunity to advance their cultivation base. Ancient Desolation Sovereign was the same. Moreover, Slaughter Sovereign was a person who would do anything to achieve his goal. Ancient Desolation Sovereign frowned upon hearing this. It seemed that Slaughter Sovereign would not give up this opportunity. Because of this, such a person was the most difficult to deal with. Therefore, Furukura Daizuen didn't want to fight against such a person at all. But now, There was no other way. This guy was pestering him. I know this, but I really didn't get the so-called opportunity. The opportunity you're looking for is indeed not here. Farukara Daizuin said with a headache. If that's the case, we can only fight. At this moment, the majestic killing intent of great venerate slaughter burst out again. This killing intent was very terrifying, and a slaughter universe great Tao directly soared into the sky. Great venerate slaughter actually burst out the slaughter great Tao at this time and directly exposed his universe great Tao. This was simply the behavior of a lunatic. For any cultivator, using a universe great Tao to fight was only done when they had no other choice. But now, great venerate slaughter didn't play according to common sense at all. He directly released his universe great Tao. Farukara, Hizuin, and great venerate blazing sun were stunned. At the same time, the two universe overlords with great venerate slaughter also released their universe great Taos, unwilling to be outdone. Chapter 2256. These people were all crazy. How could they not care about the resurrected powerhouse? At this moment, Farukara, Daizuin, and Supremacy Blazing Sun both had the urge to curse, but there was nothing they could do. Since they had already made their move, how could they not fight back and wait to be beaten up? Therefore, the two of them had no other choice. Since the other party had already made his move, the two of them could only take it. There was no other way. Massacre Supremacy, don't think that I'm afraid of you. I'm just worried about the resurrected powerhouse. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. At this moment, the great Lord Ancient Desolation was infuriated beyond words. Did this great Lord Slaughterer really think that he was afraid of him? Impossible, this is impossible. How could I be afraid of him? If it weren't for the fact that Yang Hongwu was here and he needed to protect Yang Hongwu, Farukara Daizuin wouldn't have any scruples at all. Now that things had come to this point, Yang Hongwu could only rely on himself. If he didn't have the ability or was unlucky enough to be targeted, then it would depend on his own fortune. Yang Hongwu, this is the origin, source, universe, great Tao of the resurrected powerhouse. Take it. If you can devour and refine this origin, source, universe, great Tao of the resurrected powerhouse, your strength should improve greatly. Now that I can't take care of you, you have to take care of yourself. After saying that, Farukara Daizuin separated a part of his power and, through the origin source universe, great Tao of the resurrected powerhouse that he had sealed to Yang Hongwu before sending him out of the battlefield. After being sent out of the battlefield by Farukara Daizuin, Yang Hongwu was a little dumbfounded. He didn't expect things to develop like this. Yang Hongwu was still thinking that it would be better to stay under a big tree. This time, he was directly sent out of the battlefield. But thinking about it, if he was in Farukara Daizuin's shoes, he would do the same. After all, no one would be willing to have a troublemaker by their side. It should be known that Grand Monarch Massacre and the others had come because of him. Now that Farukara Daizuin and Grand Monarch Blazing Sun were willing to help him, it was already very generous of them. If they sold him out, although Grand Monarch Massacre might not believe them, he would definitely not have a good end. Stop that, brat. Seeing that Farukara Daizuin had sent Yang Hongwu away, Great Exalted Slaughter asked. At this moment, the half-step universe overlords who were with Slaughter Great Master immediately surrounded Yang Hongwu. Seeing this, Yang Hongwu was speechless. These guys were all half-step universe overlords. Was it necessary for them to deal with a mere fourth-level Tao lord like him? This brat is so important to Farukara Daizuin. You must catch him for me. If you can't, all of you can die. Grand Monarch Massacre knew that Farukara Daizuin had given the origin source universe great Tao of the resurrected powerhouse to Yang Hongwu at this moment. From this, it could be seen that this brat was very important to him. Moreover, Grand Monarch Massacre was not a fool. He could clearly feel that there was an extremely overbearing power in this brat's body. If this power was at its peak, even he would be afraid of it. It seemed that this brat was definitely not simple. Go. Don't let that brat escape. These people were able to survive until now, so none of them were fools. Since this brat was valued by their master so much, he was definitely not a mediocre person. If they let him escape, they would be in big trouble. They knew their master's temper very well. They were a group of half-step universe overlords. If they couldn't even take down a mere Tao Lord, they were afraid that their lives would really be over. Their master had always been a man of his word. This was also why, after receiving the order from Slaughter Great Master, this group of half-step universe overlords would desperately besiege a Tao Lord together without any regard for their dignity. What was dignity? In front of their own lives, it was nothing and couldn't be eaten. Little brat, you'd better surrender obediently. Otherwise, we'll attack you together. You won't have any room to fight back at all. You'll be killed by us, one of them said. Fourth brother, why are you being so long-winded with him? Master asked us to keep him alive, but he didn't say that we must keep him alive. Dead is fine too. Another one said. Third brother, what do you know? This brat is obviously not simple. Haven't you noticed that this brat isn't afraid of us at all? Besides, Master values this brat so much that he must want to capture him alive. If he dies, Master will probably blame us. Yes, let's attack together. Capture him alive. He can't die. Do you really think that I'm meat on the chopping board that you can slaughter it? You've underestimated me. At this moment, Yang Hongwu's lips curled into a smile, and he disappeared from where he was in an instant. Oh no, that brat is gone. Damn it. What should we do? Master will tear us apart. Find him. We must find that brat. He can't escape. This area has been sealed by Master's power. This void can't be broken easily. If it's a great being at the level of a universe overlord, they might be able to do it. But he's just a Tao Lord. It's absolutely impossible for him to escape. Seeing Yang Hongwu suddenly disappear, they were very anxious. If they really let Yang Hongwu escape, Slaughter Great Master would really beat them to death. Their souls would be scattered, and they wouldn't even have a chance to be reincarnated. They knew Slaughter Great Master's temper too well. Therefore, after Yang Hongwu disappeared, they were all very anxious. That brat actually broke my seal. These good-for-nothings. The moment Yang Hongwu disappeared, Slaughter Great Master naturally discovered that this void had been sealed by his power. His aura had already enveloped the entire void, and he had captured Yang Hongwu's aura. As long as Yang Hongwu was within the range of his aura, he would be able to discover him. However, now that Yang Hongwu's aura had disappeared, it meant that Yang Hongwu had escaped from this space. That was why he was so angry. It should be known that all of his subordinates were half-step universe overlords. That brat's cultivation level was only at the level of a fourth-level Tao Lord. So many half-step universe overlords couldn't even catch a single Tao Lord and let him escape. If he wasn't a good-for-nothing, what was he? Master, that brat has escaped. We can't find him. That little bastard must have a powerful treasure. Maybe the Great Path vision just now was triggered by him. Yes, Master. Third brother is right. Shut up, you good-for-nothings. Why aren't you chasing him? Slaughter Great Master said angrily. Don't be delusional, Slaughter Great Master. Although that brat's strength isn't great, his ability to escape is top-notch. If even I can't find him, it's absolutely impossible for your good-for-nothing subordinates to find him. Huh? Furukura Daizun sneered when he saw Slaughter Great Master's exasperation. Chapter 2257. No matter how good that boy is at escaping, he's only a fourth-level Tao Lord. I don't believe that they can't even find him. If they can't find him, they can always find him with the help of a universe overlord. Fate Destroyer, go and catch that boy. Remember, I want him alive, Slaughter Killer said coldly. These half-step universe overlords were so useless that they couldn't even catch a cultivator at the level of Tao Lord. However, no matter how good he was at escaping, he didn't believe that he could escape from being caught by universe overlords. With the ability of Fate Destroyer Great Master, it shouldn't be too big of a problem for him to catch that brat. After all, Fate Destroyer Great Master was good at the art of tracking. With his help, he should be able to do it. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to find Ancient Wilderness Great Master so quickly. Yes, sir. Fate Destroyer Great Master with a universe overlord who was loyal to slaughter Great Master. In fact, once a universe overlord reached the level of universe overlords, they would be able to stand up for themselves. However, the two universe overlords under Slaughter Great Master, Fate Destroyer Great Master and Killer Lien Great Master, had always followed Slaughter Great Master without any intention of standing up for themselves, which was very strange. Killer Lien Great Master was very powerful and had amazing fighting strength. Although there was a gap between him and Slaughter Killer, ordinary late-stage universe overlords were no match for him. This showed how terrifying Grand Venerate Killer Lien's strength was. He had joined forces with Grand Venerate Fate Destroyer to suppress Grand Venerate Blazing Sun, who had just broken through. If Grand Venerate Blazing Sun hadn't refined the great Tao of his disciple, Grand Venerate Serene Gate, his strength would have increased greatly. Otherwise, he would have been trapped by the two of them. At this time, even if Grand Monarch Fate Destroyer left to chase after Yang Hongwu, Grand Monarch Proud Sun would definitely not be able to suppress Grand Monarch Killer Lien. At most, he would be able to suppress Grand Monarch Killer Lien slightly, but he would not be able to gain the upper hand. Now that Fate Destroyer Great Master had left, the pressure on Proud Sun Great Master was naturally reduced. This was a very happy thing for Proud Sun Great Master. However, for Farouk Radaizuan, things were not looking good. He was on par with the Massacre Grand Monarch, and neither of them could do anything to the other. However, he was worried about Yang Hongwu. Although he was very good at escaping, and his comprehension of the Space Tao was amazing, his cultivation level was still too low. It was indeed very difficult for ordinary half-step universe overlords to catch him. But if he encountered a real universe overlord, with his strength, he might not be able to escape. Luo Yunyang had heard of the Fate Exterminator before. His tracking techniques were top-notch. Only cultivators who had comprehended the great Tao of tracking could surpass him. Ordinary people would find it difficult to escape his pursuit. If one was targeted by him and was not as strong as him, he would definitely die. It could be said that no cultivator below the level of a universe overlord had ever been able to escape from the pursuit of Fate Destroyer Great Master. In comparison, although Killer Lien Great Master was stronger and was second only to the Massacre Grand Monarch, Fate Destroyer Great Master was the real killer in the hands of the Massacre Grand Monarch. He was his most capable assistant. In terms of importance, the Massacre Grand Monarch would definitely choose Fate Destroyer Great Master over Killer Lien Great Master, who had stronger fighting strength. You underestimate that boy. Although the Fate Destroyer Great Senior's hunting skill is amazing, he may not be able to find that boy. Moreover, I can tell you very clearly that the one who has really obtained the opportunity is that boy. There's an overbearing force in his body that is truly terrifying. If that force is activated TSK, it will be terrifying. Let's not talk about whether the Fate Destroyer Great Senior can catch up with that boy. Even if he catches up with him, he may not be able to do anything to that boy. Maybe your right-hand man will be killed by that boy instead. Farukara Daizun laughed. Hearing this, the Massacre Grand Monarch sneered. He clearly sensed the overbearing power in Yang Hongwu's body. That power was a great threat to him. It was definitely not the power of an ordinary person. If that power really burst out, the Massacre Grand Monarch would not be able to resist it. However, there was one problem. That boy's body was not strong enough to withstand such a powerful power. Once that terrifying power burst out, the boy would be finished. Therefore, the possibility of that boy killing Fate Destroyer Great Master was very slim. Furthermore, the Massacre Grand Monarch only asked the Massacre Grand Monarch to catch that boy, not to threaten his life. Therefore, the terrifying power lurking in that boy's body could not burst out under such circumstances. It would really burst out when that boy's life was in danger. If the Massacre Grand Monarch could not even see this, then he could not be the Massacre Grand Monarch's most capable subordinate. The Massacre Grand Monarch had always trusted the Massacre Grand Monarch deeply. The Massacre Grand Monarch had never let him down when he asked him to do something. Counterattack? What a joke. The power in that boy's body is indeed terrifying, but it's impossible for it to burst out. Unless that boy is facing death, it's impossible for it to burst out. You should have seen this too, so you want to gain that boy's trust and seize his opportunity, right? The Massacre Grand Monarch looked at Furukura and said coldly, "However, although your idea is good, you may end up benefiting others. Today, I want that boy, and I also want the opportunity you obtained here. Furukura, if you hand it over, everything will be fine. But if you don't hand it over, then this day, next year, will be the anniversary of your death." How arrogant! Let me see how much progress you've made after so many years. Today, you dare to speak so arrogantly. Even your elder brother, the Massacre Grand Monarch, did not dare to be so presumptuous. You are still far from being able to do that. The Massacre Grand Monarch was the elder brother of the Massacre Grand Monarch. He was extremely powerful and was the most promising universe overlord who was closest to becoming an invincible overlord. However, the Massacre Grand Monarch was too overbearing and arrogant. After all, he had offended too many people and was schemed against and sent to his death. Now, he had not appeared for many years. It was likely that he had died in that terrible death. After all, that death was a place of no return. It was said that even an invincible overlord would die if he entered that death. Therefore, very few people would enter that death, except for those old antiques who had reached the end of their lifespan. The great Tao of the universe was about to wither and be destroyed. Only those ancient existences would take the risk to enter that death. Chapter 2258. Furukura words instantly poked the Massacre Great Sovereign's sore spot. For the Massacre Great Sovereign, his elder brother, Great Sovereign Crazy Killer, was very important to him. Without his elder brother, there would be no Massacre Great Sovereign. Because of this, in his heart, his elder brother had always been invincible and omnipotent. It was impossible for him to die. In his heart, no matter where his elder brother was, nothing could happen to him, even if he had entered the legendary land of death. The net updates the fastest. Mobile phone, /m, com/now, Furukura actually dared to talk about his elder brother like this. How could he not be angry? Furukura, you have successfully angered me. Today, either you die or I die. The furious Massacre Great Sovereign's eyes were full of killing intent. This time, he was really going to use his full strength. The Massacre Great Sovereign was not a lunatic. He had not used his real trump card to fight Furukura. After all, this was a special period. Once he used his trump card, it meant that it was time to decide his life and death. In such a situation, it was impossible for him not to get injured. Once the two of them fought seriously, it was uncertain whether he would survive. Even if he didn't die, he would definitely be injured. Once he was injured at this critical moment, he would inevitably be targeted by those resurrected experts. At that time, his life and death would really be out of his control. It all depended on fate and luck. If he was lucky, he might be safe and sound. If he was unlucky, he might be targeted by those powerful resurrected experts. At that time, he might really die. At this moment, Furukura also regretted mentioning Great Sovereign Crazy Killer. This time, he had completely angered the Massacre Great Sovereign. Of course, this did not mean that Furukura was afraid of the Massacre Great Sovereign. In fact, if they really fought, how could Furukura not have any trump cards? Even though the Massacre Great Sovereign was incomparably powerful, he was confident that he wouldn't lose to Grand Monarch Massacre. However, even if he had the upper hand and defeated Grand Monarch Massacre, he would have to consume a lot of energy, which would be very disadvantageous for him. It should be known that this was not just a matter of martyrdom for Furukura. He still had many enemies. None of those enemies were weak, and they were all eyeing his ancient, desolate, great cosmos covetously. Do you think I'm afraid of you? Let me see how much of your brother's strength and true inheritance you have. I hope you won't disappoint me. Since the Massacre Great Sovereign had spoken, Furukura naturally could not show weakness at this time. Since things had already developed to this point, there was no room for change. He absolutely could not show weakness in front of the massacre great sovereign. Once he showed weakness, the massacre great sovereign would take advantage of him. Moreover, this might not be a bad thing for Farouk. Perhaps this was an opportunity. This time, the two of them had really used their trump cards. The power that erupted in an instant was too terrifying. It was simply enough to destroy the world. This sudden change startled both Great Venerables Blazing Sun and Great Venerables. Only now did they realize that their strength was really weak compared to the real powerhouses. The gap between them was not small. While Farouk and the Massacre Great Sovereign were fighting, the Fate Destroyer Great Sovereign was following Yang Hongwu's aura and chasing after Yang Hongwu's position. Yang Hongwu, who had escaped from that void, suddenly felt a sense of crisis. This made Yang Hongwu frown slightly. This was not a good thing. Something was definitely going to happen if he was hit by a sudden impulse. At this time, Yang Hongwu, Lu Yu, and Zi Xintong were together. What happened? The two of them knew that Farouk had already fallen into a battle. Such a battle was not something they could participate in. We're in trouble. The other party is very strong. We can't contend with him at all. Yang Hongwu was also very helpless. Although he had expected such trouble sooner or later, he had not expected that the other party would come so quickly. It was one of the two universe overlords who was fighting against the Blazing Sun Great Sovereign. It should be noted that he had used the Qi transforming 3 Pure One's secret technique, which allowed him to exchange his original body with his avatar and disappear directly. Yang Hongwu thought that even Farouk would not be able to detect such a method. However, this Fate Destroyer Great Sovereign had come so quickly, which really surprised Yang Hongwu. He found it unbelievable. It was impossible for an ordinary person to be so fast. In other words, it was impossible for them to find him so easily. After all, he had concealed his aura. Even a universe overlord would not be able to find his position so easily. However, this guy had found him and was rapidly chasing after him. In fact, Fate Destroyer Great Sovereign was also very surprised. He felt that Yang Hongwu had caught his aura and knew that he was coming. The distance between them was very far. This boy was indeed not simple. Fate Destroyer Great Sovereign became more and more interested in him. Very strong. Could it be that the other party is a universe overlord? Zi Xintong said. For Zi Xintong, with their current strength, they were not afraid of any enemy below the level of a universe overlord. If they could not contend with the other party, then there was only one possibility. The other party was very strong and had surpassed their limits. There was only one possibility. The other party's cultivation level was at the level of a universe overlord. This was why they could not contend with him. Yang Hongwu nodded and said, "Yes, the other party is a universe overlord and a middle stage one at that. With our strength, if we were to fight against a half-step universe overlord, we might be able to contend with him for a while. However, if we were to fight against a true universe overlord, we would not be able to fight back at all. What should we do now?" At this time, Lu Yu was completely out of ideas. This was beyond her ability. If worst comes to worst, we will fight with them to the death. If we can really die in the hands of a universe overlord, it will be worth it to fight with them, Zi Xintong said. Lu Yu smiled bitterly. Fight? We have to go all out. Since we can't leave, we can only fight. Now, we still have time to make arrangements. We definitely can't fight him head on. If we can't contend with him, we can only think of other ways. Yang Hongwu remembered what Farouk had left for him. It was the great path of the origin universe of a resurrected great being. New August 1st Chinese Network. Calm originally, Yang Hongwu had planned to refine the great path of the resurrected great being's great path of the origin universe to improve his cultivation level. However, he was afraid that he could not do it now. He had to use the great path of the resurrected great being's great path of the origin universe to deal with this powerful enemy. If you want to chat with more like-minded people about the 9 Heavens Divine Dragon technique, follow Excellent Reading Literature on WeChat. Talk about life, find confidence, Chapter 2259. Other ways? What ways? Lu Yu asked, looking at Yang Hanwu. After all, a universe overlord was no ordinary enemy. There is a world of difference between a universe overlord and a half-step universe overlord. It was impossible for them to be mentioned in the same breath. No matter how many half-step universe overlords there were, they would never be able to compete with a true universe overlord. After all, there was a huge gap between the two. Furthermore, the difference in cultivation couldn't be made up for by external forces. Treasures and the like couldn't be used to make up for it. After all, when a cultivator's cultivation level had reached such a level, even if he had powerful treasures to protect him, he would not be able to unleash the power of those treasures if his cultivation level was not high enough. Any powerful treasure would consume more power, and it would require a higher level of comprehension of the great path of the universe. If one did not comprehend the great path of the universe at that level, he would not be able to unleash such powerful power. He would not be able to unleash the power of those powerful universe true treasures and creation true treasures. Now that he had such confidence, Lu Yu was very surprised and curious. Zi Xintong, who was beside him, was also very curious. The two girls were very curious to know what other trump cards Yang Hanwu had that could allow him to contend with a universe overlord. This is a critical moment, Zi Xintong said. We cannot afford to be careless. Otherwise, we may all die here. This is not a joke. Do you have enough confidence? Whether or not I have enough confidence, we have no other choice now. We can only fight to the death, right? Yang Hanwu said with a smile. However, I'm not the kind of person who will fight if I am not confident. You know this very well. Since I dare to say this, I naturally have my means. Tell us. Let us know what to do, Lu Yu said. When Senior Furukuradaizun sent me away, he gave me something. It was the great path of the universe, origin of a resurrected great being. If I have enough time, I can refine this great path of the universe, origin of a resurrected great being, and improve my cultivation to the next level. It will not be difficult for me to enter the realm of Dao Master. However, it will take time. Even if I refine this great path of the universe origin, I may not be able to contend with a universe overlord. Therefore, I thought of another way which can fully unleash the power of the great path of the resurrected great being. Yang Hanwu paused for a moment before continuing. However, it would be a pity to do that. It's a pity that the great Tao of the universe of a revived powerhouse can only be used once. After that, it will vanish into thin air. The great path of the universe overlord was a very precious thing. If it was given to Lu Yu or Zi Xintong to refine, then her power would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. It was even possible for her to enter the realm of universe overlords directly. Therefore, the great path of the universe origin of any cultivator at the level of universe overlord was extremely precious. Once one obtained it, one would reap great benefits. Such things were things that one could only come across by chance. It was precisely because of this that Yang Hanwu felt it was a pity. After all, this was not a cabbage. Now, he was only using it to deal with a universe overlord. It was a pity that a universe overlord had to use such a trump card in order to escape. Are you going to use the great path of the resurrected great being to set up an array? To deal with that universe overlord? Zi Xintong asked. Zi Xintong knew very well that Yang Hanwu did indeed have amazing attainments in array formation. However, his current level of cultivation was not enough to deal with a universe overlord. But from what he said, he already had the ability to set up an array formation that could contend against a universe overlord. If other people heard this, they would be very surprised or even in disbelief. After all, it was too unbelievable. Yang Hanwu was only a Tao Lord. Even if he was a cultivator who cultivated the great path of array formation, it was impossible for him to use an array formation against a universe overlord when he was only a Tao Lord. Even if he was given more time to set up an array formation, it would still be impossible. However, Yang Hanwu was different. He had created and rewritten too many impossible things. Zi Xintong was not surprised by this. Therefore, Zixintong really believed that Yang Hongwu could set up an array formation that could contend against, or even seal, a universe overlord. On the other hand, Lu Yu was not so convinced. Universe overlords were too powerful and difficult to deal with. Even if Yang Hongwu could set up an array formation, it would be impossible for him to set up such a powerful array formation in such a short time. Moreover, setting up an array formation that could deal with a universe overlord would definitely consume a lot of energy. Moreover, it would need someone to guard it. Otherwise, the opponent could easily break through the array formation. In that case, it would be a waste of energy. Setting up an array formation is not an easy task. You don't have enough time, right? Lu Yu looked at Yang Hongwu and asked. Yang Hongwu smiled and nodded. It can only be an array formation. We don't have any other choice. I will combine the great path of the universe origin of the resurrected great being with a puppet to form the most powerful array core to deal with that guy. We can't kill him, but we can still trap him. After that, we will need to borrow external forces to deal with him. Borrow external forces. You mean, we will use the resurrected great being to deal with him? At this moment, Lu Yu immediately understood Yang Hongwu's idea. It was true that the array formation could not kill him, but it could trap him for a period of time. During this period of time, if the resurrected great being was lured over, then it would be very beneficial. It would be very beneficial for them. In the eyes of the resurrected great beings, their powers were too weak, and they were not worth their attention at all. If they had bumped into them on a normal day, they might have casually picked a fight with them to vent their anger. However, upon seeing a universe overlord, these resurrected great beings would certainly launch a frenzied attack on the universe overlord. After all, this was the basis of whether they could be resurrected or not. As long as they could kill a universe overlord, they could be resurrected and rise again. That's right. It is absolutely impossible for us to fight against a universe overlord head-on. In fact, we are far from being his match. If we fight him head-on, we will be courting death. Therefore, I will use the great path of the resurrected great being to seal him temporarily so that he can't leave. During this period of time, I will think of a way to lure some powerful resurrected great beings to fight with that guy. No matter who wins or loses, it will be beneficial to us. Who knows? Maybe we will gain even more benefits by then. Yang Hongwu's lips curled into a smile as he spoke. If this plan could really succeed, then it would be a huge benefit for them. This was equivalent to losing the great path of the origin of a resurrected great being. If they defeated a powerful enemy, they would gain the great paths of two universe overlords and the great path of one resurrected great being. In addition, they would naturally be able to pursue the great path of their own universe overlord. If these two powerful great paths of the universe were given to the two women to refine, they would be able to cultivate two powerful cultivators. If the two women were lucky enough, they could even directly become universe overlords. Then their strength would really skyrocket. They would have enough confidence to face off against universe overlords. They would no longer have to hide and rely on others. You want to let them both suffer great losses and be the fishermen in the end? Isn't that too risky? Even Zixintong was shocked by Yang Hongwu's idea. Yang Hongwu's courage was a bit too big. If you want to chat with more like-minded people about the Nine Heavens Dragon technique, follow Excellent Reading Literature on WeChat. Chat about life and find confidence. Chapter 2260. Yes, it's risky, but in fact, everything is under my control. I'm confident. Yang Hongwu said, in the eyes of those revived great beings, we're just ants. Besides, we're of no use to them, so they won't do anything to us. As long as we don't make trouble for them, they won't waste time on us. In their eyes, the most important thing is the flesh and blood of those universe overlords. They need the flesh and blood of those universe overlords. This is their only chance, so they'll do whatever it takes to be resurrected. But are you sure both sides will suffer? Universe overlords are not ordinary great beings. Even if they're injured, we may not be able to compete with them. Lu Yu said. Zi Xintong nodded and said, if we don't have enough trump cards, it's indeed risky. In the past, Zi Xintong wouldn't have said such a thing. However, after witnessing a battle between universe overlords, Zi Xintong realized how terrifying and powerful a universe overlord was. Even a universe overlord who was severely injured wasn't someone they could deal with. Furthermore, a universe overlord who was severely injured could still easily kill a half-step universe overlord. This was the difference between their powers. If they were only at the level of Dao Master, they wouldn't be able to resist the pressure of a universe overlord. Because of this, Zi Xintong yearned to become a universe overlord. The stronger she was, the more she knew, and the more she felt how weak she was. Don't you know whether I have a trump card or not? Even an invincible overlord can't kill me, so there's no need to worry about this. This is a gamble, a risk. If we succeed, we'll reap great rewards, and you may even become universe overlords. But if we fail, I'll just lose one of my trump cards. This risk is actually worth it. After all, we don't have much time. I need to improve my cultivation as soon as possible. If I don't take the risk and just practice step by step, I won't be able to reach the level of a universe overlord in such a short time. Yang Hongwu explained, it's not that I want to take the risk, but we've reached the point where we have no choice but to take the risk. We have no other choice but to improve our power quickly at the edge of life and death. When the two women heard this, they looked at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. Indeed, they had reached the point where they had no other choice. They knew their own situation. It was impossible for them to reach that level in such a short period of time and be able to contend against such a terrifying expert. But Yang Hongwu was different. He was a man who could create miracles. Only he could create such a great miracle in such a short period of time that no one else could accomplish it. If this miracle couldn't be created and this mission couldn't be completed, then they could only die in their future calamity at the hands of those powerful enemies. In order to survive, this risk had to be taken. If they didn't take the risk, they would die. It was just a matter of time. If they took the risk, there was still a chance of survival. In order to fight for this chance of survival, they had to endure too many things. The two women looked at Yang Hongwu. They couldn't bear to see him die, but this was what he had to do. They could only try their best to share some of the burden. And supporting him was one of the few things they could do. What should we do now? Zi Xintong asked. Yes, what can we do to help you? Lu Yu nodded and said, we also have to do something. Yang Hongwu smiled bitterly. It wasn't that Yang Hongwu didn't want the two women to do something. He could see that the two women really wanted to help him share some of the burden. However, the current situation wasn't something that the two women could interfere with. The other party was too strong, and the two women's attainments and formations weren't enough. Help me collect some materials to arrange the formation. Yang Hongwu thought for a while and said, although the two women couldn't do much, they could still collect some materials. The two women nodded. Soon, the three of them began to move. Yang Hongwu had already taken out the great Tao of the universe of the resurrected expert. Then, Yang Hongwu hesitated for a while and took out another thing. It was a formation disc. This formation disc was something that Yang Hongwu had prepared for a long time. Originally, he planned to arrange a great formation in the common people's great world as the origin formation of the entire common people's great world. Now, he had no other choice. There weren't many things that could bear the great Tao of the resurrected expert. The things in his hands are the 9 underworlds gate, the great seal of life, the divine tree of fortune, and so on. There were only a few things. However, these things were too important for Yang Hongwu. If he used them to arrange the formation, they might be destroyed. This was something that Yang Hongwu couldn't bear. Relatively speaking, although this formation disc would definitely be destroyed after use, it was still within the range that Yang Hongwu could bear. Moreover, this formation disc could maximize the power of the resurrected expert's great Tao of the universe. 9 dragons, god-trapping formation rise. Following Yang Hongwu's shout, the 9 dragons roared. Then the 9 dragons soared into the sky. Powerful energy was integrated into the dragons. An incomparably powerful formation was arranged. This formation used the 9 dragons formation disk as the core of the formation. It was connected to the common people's great world, with the great Tao of the universe of the resurrected expert as the great Tao of the universe. It formed a powerful formation that could trap the overlords of the universe. The moment this formation was arranged, there was a strange change in the world. The power in Yang Hongwu's body was almost sucked dry. If his cultivation hadn't broken through to the Tao Lord realm, and he hadn't been replenished by the power of the common people's great world, arranging such a formation would have sucked him dry. He would have died because of excessive power consumption. After this formation was laid out, Yang Hongwu's heart was drenched in cold sweat. He had overestimated himself and underestimated the amount of energy required to set up such a formation. If his strength was any lower, then he would have died before he could even set up this formation. Chapter 2261. Seeing that Yang Hongwu had consumed so much energy, the 2 women were very worried. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine. I just consumed a little too much energy. I'll be fine after I recover," Yang Hongwu replied. He took out an elixir and swallowed it. After running his technique, he quickly recovered half of his energy. At this time, Yang Hongwu did not dare to wait for his physical strength to recover slowly. He had to quickly adjust his condition to the peak because the other party was about to arrive. Under such circumstances, Yang Hongwu did not dare to be careless at all. If there was any accident, even if it was just a small mistake, it would cause all his previous efforts to be wasted. This was completely unacceptable. If he failed, he was afraid that he would be in real trouble. Not long after, Yang Hongwu opened his eyes. There was a flash of light. He looked at the 2 women and said, "He's here. I'll separate an avatar to take you 2 further away. His target is me, so he won't pay attention to you 2. So you 2 are safe." "Okay." The 2 women nodded. They knew very well that this was not a situation they could intervene in. It would be good enough if they did not cause trouble for Yang Hongwu and become his burden. If they stayed, Yang Hongwu would have to take care of them. This would be very restrictive. "Then you have to be careful," Lu Yu said. "Don't worry. If anything happens, I can directly transfer my original body over. You don't have to worry too much about this. Moreover, even if I can't do it, I still have a trump card to save my life." Yang Hongwu smiled and said in a very calm tone. The 2 women nodded. "However, you still have to be careful. After all, it's better to be safe than sorry." "I know." Yang Hongwu separated an avatar and escaped with the 2 women. Yang Hongwu himself was overseeing this powerful array. This array was the most powerful array that Yang Hongwu could set up so far. Although it was not a killing array but a trapping array, it was very powerful. If someone with insufficient strength entered this array, they would be exhausted to death. It was a piece of cake for such an array to deal with cultivators below the level of universe overlords. If the opponent's strength was below that of a great Tao Knight, then there was no way for him to survive in this array. Yang Hongwu was very proud of the arrangement of such a formation. Not long after, a powerful aura appeared. This aura belonged to one of the 2 people who had fought against Great Venerate Blazing Sunday, Fate Destroyer, Grand Monarch. Yang Hongwu had expected this. Fate Destroyer Grand Master was the weakest among the 3 universe overlords, so Yang Hongwu had expected him to come after him. "Brat, why aren't you running anymore?" When the Fate Destroyer Supremacy saw Yang Hongwu sitting there, the corners of his mouth curled up into a smile. This kid knew his place. He knew that the Fate Destroyer Supremacy was here to look for him and had no interest in the other 2 women. As a universe overlord, how could he not have sensed the auras of the other 2 women? However, to him, those 2 women were not his target. He only needed to capture Yang Hongwu. Nothing else mattered to him. This kid was indeed a little strange. Previously, on the battlefield, he had disappeared in an instant. Even his master, Great Venerate Supremacy, had not noticed how he had disappeared. It should be known that that part of the void was shrouded by great venerate supremacy's aura and sealed it. It was impossible for even a great being like Furukura Daizuin to leave quietly. However, this kid had managed to do it, which surprised the Fate Destroyer supremacy. This kid either had a powerful universe true treasure that was familiar with space, or it should be a top-level space universe true treasure. Only in this way could he have escaped without being discovered. Either that, or it was the kid's innate super ability. Some cultivators had special innate super abilities. After all, the void was vast and filled with all sorts of strange things. It wasn't strange for there to be some experts with special talents in the Great Thousand Universe. The Fate Destroyer supremacy had seen many different kinds of cultivators with special talents. However, to be able to use an innate divine ability with the cultivation of a Tao Lord and disappear silently without Grand Monarch Slaughter noticing, it was very unusual. After all, an innate divine ability was an innate divine ability. No matter how powerful it was still very difficult to exert its effect under the suppression of absolute strength. There's no need. Your strength is not enough to deal with me. If your master, Great Venerate Supremacy, had come, I might have been afraid and run away. However, I don't care about you at all. You're too weak. After a pause, Yang Hongwu said, however, I'm curious. Your tracking technique is so powerful that you can find me. What kind of tracking technique is it? How can it be so powerful? Hearing Yang Hongwu's words, Fate Destroyer Supremacy was not angry. Instead, he laughed. This kid was only a 4th-level Tao Lord, but he dared to look down on him, a universe overlord. Fate Destroyer Supremacy did not know where he got his courage from. Kid, you're really arrogant. You're just a Tao Lord. How dare you look down on me? Although Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch was furious, he didn't dare to be careless. He was a very cautious person. His title was Fate Destroyer, but it wasn't just a title. Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch was good at killing and plundering others' fate. One of the prerequisites for killing and robbing others of their luck was to be able to see the other party's luck. However, when he checked this kid's luck, he only found that this kid's luck was much stronger than ordinary people's, but it was not to the extent that he would be afraid of. Of course, with this kid's luck, if nothing unexpected happened, he could be promoted to a universe overlord. This was his potential. For the Fate Destroyer Supreme Monarch, if he could kill this kid and plunder his luck, his strength might soar by leaps and bounds. However, Fate Destroyer Supremacy did not intend to do that, because this kid was valued by his master. His master, Slaughter Supremacy, had said that he wanted him alive. If he killed this kid, he would go against Slaughter Supremacy's wishes. He would not do that. Capturing Yang Hongwu alive was Fate Destroyer Supremacy's task. Ever since he had followed Grand Monarch Massacre, he had completed every task that Grand Monarch Massacre had assigned him. He had never failed, and this time would be no exception. Look down on you? You can think of it that way, because I'm the master here. I'm the only overlord. I'm invincible. After saying that, Yang Hongwu waved his hand. In the void, giant dragons roared and appeared, and the array was instantly activated. Array? This array is not bad. Unfortunately, it can't stop me without a master controlling it. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Yang Hongwu. He was a little surprised by the sudden appearance of this array. The array's power was also very shocking. He wasn't worried about an array set up by a mere Tao Lord. Even if this array was very powerful and could trap a universe overlord, he wouldn't be worried. This was because a powerful array required a huge amount of energy and the owner of the array to support it. Without these, any array would be vulnerable. Chapter 2262. Then he struck out with his palm, trying to break the seal of this formation with brute force. He was very confident in his own strength, but he had underestimated the power of this formation. When his palm hit the array formation formed by the 9 dragons easily blocked the powerful attack. Not only did it block it, but it also bounced back his palm force. Punk. Supremacy Fate Destroyer had no choice but to receive his palm strike. He groaned, and his face sank. His attack was blocked unexpectedly. Although it didn't cause him any damage, it was a slap to his face. If others heard this, they would be slapped in the face. Shameful, really shameful. This formation of mine is pretty good. Yang Hongwu could not help but chuckle when he saw the Fate Devastator getting slapped in the face. Fate Devastator, it won't be easy for you to break this formation of mine. You had better not die within this formation of mine. That would be bad. These words made Fate Destroyer even angrier. He was a universe overlord, but he was ridiculed by a mere Tao Lord. Even if he was very lucky and had the absolute potential to become a universe overlord, this was still intolerable. No master could be insulted. This was the dignity and face of a master. Boy, you're courting death. Do you know that? I originally wanted to capture you alive and hand you over to my master, but now you've completely infuriated me. I won't kill you, but I'll completely cripple you and make you a cripple who can't cultivate. At this moment, the anger in the Fate Exterminator's heart was ignited all of a sudden. Yang Hongwu's words seemed to have a special magical power that directly broke the Fate Exterminator's mental state and infuriated him. He gathered all the power in his body, and the power of the great Tao of the universe erupted, forming an ancient and powerful saber. This saber was a saber that could exterminate fate. It had severed the fate of countless experts in the Long River. Once a cultivator's river of karmic luck was severed, their path to becoming an expert would also be severed. Karmic luck was one of the foundations of a cultivator. Very few people were not in the river of karmic luck. In fact, this was very similar to the river of fate. Every living creature had their own river of fate, and every living creature also had their own river of fate. However, some people were more special. They were existences who jumped out of the river of fate and the river of fate. Of course, if one's strength reached a certain level, he should be able to jump out of the river of fate and the river of fate. However, this realm was probably beyond the level of an invincible overlord. Obviously, this boy in front of him could not reach that realm, and he should not be one of the few special existences. The moment the saber of fate slashed down, Yang Hongwu felt a slight tremor. This river was Yang Hongwu's river of fate. How was this a river? It was more like a raging sea. It seemed to be boundless. Seeing this scene, Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch was shocked. He could not believe it. He had never seen such a vast river of fate. It was like an ocean of fate, boundless and boundless. How could it be cut off? This situation made Fate Destroyer completely dumbfounded. Although his saber of fate had cut off part of Yang Hongwu's river of fate, it was only for a moment. Yang Hongwu's river of fate was instantly connected again, because he could not really cut off the river of fate. On the other hand, Grand Monarch Fate Destroyer suffered a great backlash. He let out a muffled groan as blood oozed out from the corners of his mouth. His expression was extremely dispirited. Clearly, the backlash from just now was so great that he was seriously injured. At this moment, Fate Destroyer smiled bitterly. He could not believe that he had fallen into such a situation and suffered a backlash from someone else's fate. The great Tao of the universe that Fate Destroyer comprehended was a very special existence. It was the great Tao of the universe of Fate Destroyer. This great Tao of the universe was very powerful and domineering. It was definitely one of the top great Taos of the universe. When he used the saber of fate to cut off other people's rivers of fate, he had never encountered a backlash. Even if the other party was stronger than him and the river of fate could not be cut off, it would still cause damage to the other party's fate. It was just a matter of whether the river of fate could be cut off. It was absolutely impossible for him to encounter a backlash. The saber of fate could not be used indefinitely. This saber of fate could only be used once against any living being. It cannot be used twice against the same person or the same living being. Even at his peak, he could only use 3 slashes. After that, he had to wait for the saber of fate to recover, which would take time. Therefore, although his saber of fate was powerful and terrifying, it also had a great limit. It did not mean that he could freely cut off other people's rivers of fate. The reason why he used the saber of fate on Yang Hongwu was that he was completely enraged by Yang Hongwu. However, he could not kill Yang Hongwu. Moreover, Fate Destroyer had not said that he could not harm Yang Hongwu's fate. Therefore, he wanted to cut off Yang Hongwu's river of fate. Who would have thought that although Yang Hongwu's luck didn't seem strong, his river of luck was so terrifying? Such a person was too terrifying. He was even more terrifying than those who had jumped out of the river of fate. Jumping out of the river of karmic luck didn't mean that they were truly incomparably powerful. Karmic luck was a very special and mysterious thing. After jumping out of the river of karmic luck, they wouldn't be able to obtain any help from the great Tao of the void. They would have to rely entirely on themselves to improve themselves. However, those who had the blessing of fate might be blessed and helped by the void great Tao at all times. Those with particularly strong fate might be able to pick up supreme treasures of the universe while walking. This was the terrifying thing about fate. Of course, those who jumped out of the river of fate also had certain benefits. They would not be restricted by the void great Tao. If they wanted to jump out of the restrictions of the void great Tao, it would be much easier for them to do so than those who had the river of fate. Generally speaking, those who jumped out of the river of fate were very heaven-defying existences with considerable strength. This was because those who were not strong enough and did not have the river of fate generally did not live long. The sudden injury of the Fate Destroyer stunned Yang Hongwu. At first, Yang Hongwu felt as if he had been seen through and an invisible saber had been placed on his head. However, in just a moment, the Fate Destroyer had been injured and his aura had withered a lot. The way he looked at Yang Hongwu had become so strange and fearful that Yang Hongwu was really confused. Chapter 2263. In particular, Fate Destroyer looked at Yang Hongwu as if he had seen a ghost. This made Yang Hongwu feel very strange, as if he had done something to Fate Destroyer. Could it be that his formation was so powerful that it caused Fate Destroyer to suffer a great backlash? Could it be that the Fate Destroyer supremacy had been scared silly by him? Of course, he was not scared out of his wits. At this time, Fate Destroyer was indeed scared out of his wits by Yang Hongwu. The vast and boundless river of fate was so amazing that he was stunned. Moreover, the backlash he had suffered this time was not very serious, but it was not light either. It would take time for him to recover. The crux of the problem was that this was a special period. It was the martyrdom period. Although there were still a few days before the martyrdom period would end, it was very likely that he would be besieged by resurrected masters because of his injuries. This was a big problem. If he was not careful, he might die during the martyrdom period. Furthermore, this formation had trapped him. If he couldn't break the formation as soon as possible, his location would be targeted by the resurrected experts, making it even easier for them to find him. In that case, the danger he would be in would be even greater. What annoyed him the most was that this meant that he had failed his task. He had failed the task assigned to him by Slaughter Supremacy. He was a universe overlord, but he could not even take down a Tao Lord. It was too shameful. TSK, Fate Destroyer Supremacy, didn't you uncripple me? What happened? At this time, Yang Hongwu had separated a clone to summon resurrected masters. In fact, even if Yang Hongwu did not take the initiative to summon resurrected masters, they would still come after sensing the power of Fate Destroyer Supremacy's chi and blood. However, Yang Hongwu thought that it would take too long. He could not afford to waste so much time. Naturally, he wanted to do it as soon as possible. Therefore, Yang Hongwu once again separated another clone. His original body was here to guard Fate Destroyer Supremacy, while his clone went to find resurrected masters. Boy, I have to admit that your formation is pretty good, but it's only pretty good. After all, your strength is still too weak. The gap between our cultivation realms can't be made up by a mere formation. If I want to break this formation, it won't take too long. It'll just consume some strength. Once I break this formation, it'll be your doomsday. Do you know that? If you can obediently let go of the formation at this time and come with me to see slaughter supremacy, I won't do anything to you. But if you're stubborn and obstinate, once you fall into my hands, you won't have a good end. Even if I have to take the risk of being blamed by slaughter supremacy, I will let you know how terrible it is to offend a universe overlord. Looking at Yang Hongwu, Fate Devastator narrowed his eyes. Although there were many thoughts running through his mind, and he was very worried. On the surface, he did not reveal any information at all. He did not show the slightest emotion on his face, so that Yang Hongwu could guess what was on his mind. If he could frighten and persuade Yang Hongwu at this time, it would save him a lot of trouble and a lot of trouble. Moreover, he would not have to worry about the resurrection of Strong. After all, this boy was the key. The strange phenomenon that had appeared before should have been caused by this boy. This boy had such a terrifying river of fortune, or rather, an ocean of fortune. It was so vast and boundless that no universe true treasure could fall into the hands of others. Such a person was favored by the great way of the void. It could be said that he was the son of fortune of the void. Such a person could easily pick up a universe true treasure. Of course, there was a prerequisite for this. After all, although this boy's ocean of fortune was amazing, it was in a sealed state. What could really erupt was only a part of the fortune. This fortune could only reach such a level if it was truly released. It could be said that this boy was a true treasure of fortune of the void. If such a person existed, then fortune would be endless, and there would be no need to worry about the problem of fortune. When one cultivated to the level of a universe overlord, the competition for providence was an eternal topic. Any great being in the universe had to compete for providence. Otherwise, there would not be great universe masters entering small worlds and small universes to preach the Tao. After all, entering small worlds and small universes to preach the Tao required a high price and a lot of energy. If there were only a few small worlds, there would not be many benefits. One would need to enter many small worlds and small universes. In this case, it would be a very huge project that would require a lot of time and energy. This was something that all universe overlord would do. Moreover, if one could cultivate a strong and outstanding genius in this small universe or small world, it would be an excellent thing. It was just that this was extremely difficult. No matter what, fate was of utmost importance to any universe overlord. Even for Fate Destroyer Great Master, it was very important. Although he could plunder the fortune of others without being restrained, he also had his own weakness. It could be said that the Blade of Fortune was his foundation and his strongest true treasure. However, it was also his weakness. If he did not have enough fortune, the Blade of Fortune would not be strong enough, or if he lost the Blade of Fortune, then he would have no combat power to speak of. Without the Blade of Fortune, he would be even weaker than an ordinary great Tao master. This was his Achilles heel. He had always wanted to make up for this weakness. The only way was to find a practitioner who could jump out of the long river of fortune, plunder his foundation, integrate it into himself, and jump out of the long river of fortune. Only then would he be at his strongest and the key to becoming an invincible overlord. Of course, if he could get the support of Yang Hongwu's terrifying fortune, all of this would not be a problem. However, it was impossible. Fate Destroyer Great Master knew this very well. This kind of fortune was not something that he could plunder. If he forcibly opened the seal of Yang Hongwu's Sea of Fortune, the terrifying fortune might directly shatter his Blade of Fortune and the great Tao of the universe of fortune. In that case, he would be doomed. Therefore, Fate Destroyer Great Master absolutely did not dare to touch the seal of Yang Hongwu's Sea of Fortune. That would be courting death. Offending me is a terrible thing. You can indeed forcibly break the seal of my formation, but it will take time. During this time, I'll find you some suitable opponents, such as several resurrected great beings with good strength. What do you think? Yang Hongwu was not afraid at all. Yang Hongwu had a rough idea of what Fate Destroyer Great Master was thinking. At this moment, Fate Destroyer Supremacy was actually very anxious because he was already injured. Now that he was injured, he would be more attractive to resurrected great beings during this period of martyrdom, and his location would be exposed even faster. After all, these resurrected great beings were very sensitive to the presence of an injured universe overlord. Bookhouse reading website. Chapter 2264. Upon hearing Yang Hongwu's words, Fate Destroyer Supremacy's expression changed drastically. He had not expected Yang Hongwu to have such an idea. Yang Hongwu had already seen through his weakness. Given his current situation, he would be in big trouble if this brat really summoned one or two resurrected experts. He might even die here. Brat, you're courting death. The Fate Destroyer Supremacy's aura rose to its peak. He knew that he could not afford to waste any more time. He had to break the seal of this array formation as soon as possible, get out of this place, and capture that brat. Otherwise, if that brat really attracted the attention of a resurrected powerhouse, he would be doomed. He absolutely could not sit still and wait for death. Courting death? I know who's courting death. You were already destined to die when you came to capture me. Yang Hongwu looked at Fate Destroyer Supremacy and said, "Of all the things you could have chosen, you chose to capture me. This is your fate. Little bastard, you sure talk big. Do you really think you could defeat me? This formation of yours is not bad, but it can't trap me. I think you don't have enough strength now. You won't be able to hold on for long. This formation won't be able to withstand more than a few attacks from me." Fate Destroyer Supremacy raised his strength to the extreme. He raised the saber in his hand high, and the saber glowed brightly. Fate Destroyer / break. As Fate Destroyer Supremacy roared, the saber slashed down on the formation. The entire formation shook in the face of this overbearing power, as if it was going to break at any time. A small crack was torn open on the formation, but soon this small crack was restored to its original state, and the light of the formation dimmed a little. This strike was the strongest strike of the Fate Exterminator. It had already condensed the strongest power of the Fate Exterminator. This attack had only opened a small crack in the formation, and it had been restored very quickly. This made Fate Destroyer Supremacy very angry. The power of this formation was completely beyond his imagination. This brat was just a Tao Lord. How could he have such powerful strength to support this formation? Fate Destroyer Supremacy could not see through this. Suddenly, he felt a strange power. This power was the power of a resurrected expert. At first, he was startled, thinking that it was a resurrected expert. Later, he found out that it was the great Tao of the universe of a resurrected expert. It was the thing that provided the array formation with a steady stream of energy. This was also the reason why the kid was able to support the array formation. So it's the great Tao of a resurrected expert. After understanding this, the Fate Destroyer Supremacy finally understood why this boy's formation could trap him. The great Tao of the universe of a resurrected expert was the energy source of the formation. In addition, this formation was very powerful, so it would not be a problem for it to trap him for a while. Normally, he would not need to worry at all. Even if this formation was powered by the great Tao of the universe of a resurrected expert, it would not be able to hold him back for too long. After all, his opponent's cultivation was only at the Tao Lord realm. However, it was different now. Given this brat's ability, although he was only at the Tao Lord realm, he could hold on for half a day or even a day. In this way, this period of time was enough for the resurrected experts to discover his location and chase after him. After the resurrected experts appeared, he would be injured and consumed a lot of energy. How could he stop those resurrected experts? They were all crazy existences who did not care about their lives. For them, it was worth it to perish together with him. It was precisely because of this that Fate Destroyer Supremacy was very anxious at this time. He condensed his power again, hoping to open another crack and send out a message so that others could come to his rescue. After all, there were still so many half-step universe overlords. Although they were not as strong as Yang Hongwu, it was not a problem for them to deal with this brat. They might not be able to do anything to Yang Hongwu within the array, But it did not mean that Yang Hongwu could contend with a half-step universe overlord outside the array. This was the only way he could do now. He could only open another crack and send out a message. At this time, Fate Destroyer Supremacy was crazily attacking again and again, without caring about the consumption of his power. After a small crack was torn open, Fate Destroyer Supremacy instantly sent out a message. It was a message spiritual talisman. This kind of talisman was not common. It was a message spiritual talisman that others could not block. It was a message spiritual talisman condensed by universe overlords at the cost of their power of origin. This kind of talisman consumed a lot of energy, and even universe overlords could only use it a few times. They were not willing to use it unless it was a critical moment. Seeing the light flickering away, Yang Hongwu saw the message from the message spiritual talisman appear in his mind. When this talisman was sent out, it meant that reinforcements would arrive soon. Of course, it also meant that the Fate Destroyer Supremacy was already at the end of his rope and had no other choice. This situation made Yang Hongwu frown. He was worried that Fate Destroyer Supremacy was going to find help. If it was a great being at the level of a universe overlord, then he would be in real trouble. He could only run away, but this was unlikely. Fate Destroyer Supremacy and Farouk Kuradaizuan were fighting, and Farouk Kuradaizuan would not let Fate Destroyer Supremacy go so easily. A battle at their level could not be resolved in a short time. Besides, there was another universe overlord who was fighting against Fate Destroyer Supremacy. Supremacy was not weak now. After all, he was able to fight against two universe overlords. However, if there was a fourth universe overlord, the situation would not be like this. Therefore, there was definitely no fourth universe overlord, and they definitely did not have a fourth universe overlord. In this case, the reinforcements of Fate Destroyer Great Master could only be the group of half-step universe overlords. As long as they were not at the level of a universe overlord, Yang Hongwu was not particularly worried. He could still resist a half-step universe overlord for a while. Asking for reinforcements? TSK. A universe overlord needs to use a message spiritual talisman to ask for reinforcements to deal with me, a mere Tao Lord. This is a universe message spiritual talisman, and it is extremely precious. Isn't it shameful to use it to deal with me, a mere Tao Lord? Yang Hongwu looked at Fate Destroyer Supremacy and said. Fate Destroyer Supremacy could not help but blush when he heard this. He was very embarrassed, but he was not the kind of person who would suffer for his pride. He would not risk his life for the sake of his pride. A universe overlord's pride was very important, but he would not risk his life for it. Everything was not worth it. Moreover, this brat was not simple. There was a domineering force in his body. This force was not something that ordinary universe overlords could contend against. Even invincible overlords would have to be wary of it. Therefore, there was nothing embarrassing about it, even if it was revealed to others. Since you know about this universe message, spiritual talisman, you should know that my reinforcements will be here soon. You can't trap me. As for my pride, as long as I catch you, who will know? Fate Destroyer Supremacy looked coldly at Yang Hongwu. Now, he had nothing to say about his pride. As long as he caught Yang Hongwu, that would be the best. Chapter 2265. Yang Hongwu was speechless when he heard Fate Destroyer Supremacy's words. How could someone with such a high level of cultivation say something like that? He was really shameless. Yang Hongwu had nothing to say to such a universe overlord. In fact, the truly shameless experts were the most difficult and terrifying experts to deal with. When encountering such experts, there were no rules to speak of. In order to achieve their goals, they would give up everything and resort to unscrupulous means. Of course, Yang Hongwu could tell that the Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch was a person who cared about his reputation and was not the kind of person who would resort to unscrupulous means. However, if he was forced to a certain extent, this might not be the case. However, for Yang Hongwu, it did not matter what kind of person the Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch was, whether he was shameless or unscrupulous, because the person he was waiting for had arrived. Even if the Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch's reinforcements arrived, it would be of no help. Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch, it's too late for you to send out a message talisman now. Your opponent is coming, Yang Hongwu said with a smile. Damn it, it's a resurrected expert. It's really a resurrected expert. Sensing the aura of the resurrected expert, the Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch's face turned pale. He knew that he was in big trouble. This time, if he could not overcome it, he would probably die here. Because of his carelessness, he had been schemed against by a Tao Lord. This was a very shameful thing. If he died here, he would not be able to rest in peace. As soon as the resurrected expert arrived and sensed the aura of the Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch, he became very manic. He was about to rush into the formation to cause trouble for the Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch. Seeing this, Yang Hongwu hurriedly let go. In an instant, the resurrected expert entered the formation. The Fate Destroyer Supremacy had wanted to seize the moment Yang Hongwu opened the array formation to escape. However, how could Yang Hongwu not have thought of that? The moment the array formation was activated, Yang Hongwu unleashed a wave of power that bombarded the Fate Destroyer Supremacy. This wave of power was the origin source of this array formation, which was also the origin source of the resurrected powerhouse. It was the power of the great Tao of the universe. If the Fate Destroyer Supreme Venerable did not take this blow into account, he would be hit by this overbearing force and be seriously injured. In that case, it would be meaningless even if he left the formation. He would definitely die. Therefore, he chose to dodge and avoid this attack. He didn't want to forcefully leave this array. He had no choice. He had no choice. He had actually been forced into such a state by a mere Tao Lord cultivator. Humiliation. This was an enormous humiliation. If he could get out and escape this calamity, then the kid's death would come. At this moment, the Fate Destroyer Supreme Venerable's eyes were bursting with strong killing intent. No matter what, as long as he didn't die and could get out safely, he had to kill the kid even if he had to risk being punished by the Slaughter Supreme Venerable. However, could the Fate Destroyer Supreme Venerable really get what he wanted? After the array formation was sealed again, a terrifying resurrected powerhouse appeared within the array formation. The strength of this resurrected expert was comparable to that of the Fate Destroyer Supreme Venerable. However, in terms of real combat strength, the Fate Destroyer Supreme Venerable was no match for this resurrected expert. This was because the Fate Destroyer Supreme Venerable was already injured. Moreover, he had consumed a lot of energy in order to break the seal of the array formation. In addition, the resurrected expert's combat strength was very fierce. They were all people who had died before. What wouldn't they do in order to come back to life? The first thing they did was to fight crazily by perishing together with their opponents. This was a suicidal attack. How could ordinary people withstand it? For these resurrected experts, as long as they perished together with their opponents, it would be a gain. After all, it was difficult to get another chance. This was their last chance. How could they not go crazy? However, it was different for the Fate Destroyer Supreme Venerable. Once he was killed, he would really die. Even if he perished together with his opponent, it would be a loss for him. This was also the reason why all the cultivators above the universe, overlord level, were so afraid of these resurrected experts. They didn't want to encounter resurrected experts at all. Once they encountered them, it would be almost certain death. Unless they were extremely powerful, they could kill the resurrected experts and seize the great Tao of the universe of the resurrected experts. The martyrdom period was a great opportunity for some cultivators, but for others, it was a terrible disaster. Generally speaking, there were very few people who could gain benefits and obtain great opportunities during the period of martyrdom. However, there were countless cultivators who died during the period of martyrdom. However, these resurrected experts were in a special void. This space was called the Land of Hope. In the Land of Hope, there were many experts who had perished and killed universe overlords during the martyrdom period to be resurrected. The strength of these experts was extremely terrifying. However, these experts couldn't really enter the void great universe. Once a resurrected expert killed a universe overlord and seized their flesh and blood to be truly resurrected, they would be sent to the land of hope. In fact, the land of hope was also called the land of resurrection. This was a very special place. The cultivators here were very powerful, but they were also very strange. Fate Destroyer Supreme, Venerable, only knew some information about this place. The resurrected expert in front of him was different from the other resurrected experts he had seen before. This resurrected expert actually had the aura of the land of resurrection. Could this resurrected expert be an existence chosen by the land of resurrection? If he was a resurrected expert chosen by the land of resurrection, it meant that this resurrected expert was very likely to be resurrected and become a cultivator of the land of resurrection. As he thought of this, Fate Destroyer Supreme Venerable's eyes flashed with a strange light. This discovery was very unfriendly to him. There were indeed many powerful beings in the land of rebirth with terrifying strength. Legend had it that in the land of rebirth, there were even existences that surpassed the invincible overlords. These existences had the ability to choose and revive some of the resurrected powerful beings. This resurrected expert might be a descendant of a formidable expert in the land of resurrection. If he wanted to revive him and let him enter the land of hope, then he would need a sacrifice. Fate Destroyer Supreme, Venerable, didn't want to become this fellow's sacrifice. It was very difficult not to become a sacrifice. The only way was to find another universe overlord to replace him or to kill this resurrected great being. First of all, it was very difficult. At this time, where could he find another universe overlord to sacrifice himself? This was basically impossible. The second scenario was to kill this reincarnated expert. The difficulty was not small. Furthermore, if this resurrected powerhouse was really the descendant of a powerhouse in the land of rebirth, as Yifutian had guessed, then Yifutian would be targeted if Yifutian were to kill him. However, at this time, he had no other choice. Chapter 2266. He had no choice but to kill him. He didn't care about the background of this resurrected great being or the existence behind him. Now that he was a threat to his life, if only one of them could survive, then he would kill him. This was a battle where one of them had to die, and one of them had to die here. Of course, Fate Destroyer Great Master didn't want that person to be him. As for whether he would be targeted by the great beings from the land of rebirth in the future, that was a matter for the future. Now, if he wanted to survive, he had to kill this resurrected great being. After killing him, he also had to kill that bastard, Yang Hongwu. At the thought of this, his killing intent surged, and he was full of fighting spirit. Although he had just been counterattacked by Yang Hongwu's luck, now that this resurrected great being was dead, his luck wasn't as strong as Yang Hongwu's, so there was no way he could kill Fate Destroyer Great Master. Saber of Luck slash. Fate Destroyer Great Master shouted, and a saber of luck appeared in the void. It was an invisible saber, and it slashed toward the resurrected great being. Although this resurrected great being felt threatened, he had no intention of retreating. He ignored the threat and rushed toward Fate Destroyer Great Master without any hesitation. His purpose was to kill Fate Destroyer Great Master, kill this universe overlord in front of him, and seize his power of flesh and blood to bring him back to life. Even if he had to exchange injuries for injuries, it would be worth it. After all, he had already died once. In the face of death, he was not afraid at all. As long as he could kill this universe overlord before him, it would be worth it. Die, die, die. This resurrected great being stared at Fate Destroyer Great Master and kept uttering the word die. His eyes were full of fighting spirit. He only had one goal, and that was to kill a universe overlord. He only had one thought, and that was to kill. This was his only goal. He would kill whoever stood in his way. Even Yang Hongwu, who was outside the formation, was astonished by the terrifying killing intent. However, Yang Hongwu had to admit that the Fate Destroyer was really strong. Although the resurrected powerhouse attacked the Fate Destroyer frantically, the Fate Destroyer's Fate Destroyer blade directly severed the resurrected powerhouse's fate. However, when Fate Destroyer Great Master's invisible Fate Destroyer blade severed the resurrected Great Being's fate, he also suffered a great loss. Although this resurrected Great Being was dead and his power of fate was not as strong, there was a powerful resurrected Great Being behind him. This was because this resurrected Great Being had such a strong fate. Although this Great Being's fate was severed by him, it also caused him to suffer a backlash. Although this backlash was far less severe than the backlash from Yang Hongwu's power of fate, in his current situation, a little bit of fate backlash and a little bit of injury were still great losses to him. Sometimes a little bit of injury could be fatal. The Fate Destroyer Great Master knew this very well. However, there was nothing he could do. He had never expected that this resurrected powerhouse would also have such a strong fate. Of course, he also knew very well where this great fate came from. In fact, even if he knew that the reincarnated powerhouse's destiny was very strong and that he would suffer a backlash if he tried to sever it, he had no other choice. If he wanted to kill this reincarnated powerhouse, he had to sever his destiny. If he couldn't do so, then he wouldn't have any chance. As the Fate Destroyer Great Master, his means and most powerful attack were to sever the fate of others. If he lost confidence in this and did not dare to attack, then he could just choose to die. He might as well sever the resurrected powerhouse's fate and gain the upper hand in this battle. If he had not severed the resurrected powerhouse's fate, he would not have been able to contend with this resurrected powerhouse. At this moment, in the depths of the land of rebirth, a terrifying powerhouse opened his eyes. Anan's fate has been severed. Who is it? How dare they sever Anan's fate and go against me? This powerhouse was one of the 3 patriarchs of the land of rebirth. Anan was the one who had fought the Fate Destroyer Great Master. He was the descendant of the patriarch of the land of rebirth and the descendant that the Fate Destroyer Great Master valued the most. Otherwise, the Fate Destroyer Great Master would not have paid the price to imprint the aura of the land of rebirth on Anan's body. Because of this, the Fate Destroyer Great Master would not kill Anan if he sensed the Fate Destroyer Great Master's aura. Furthermore, the Fate Destroyer Great Master had made a deal with the Fate Destroyer Great Master. But now, Anan's fate had been severed by someone. How bold of them! With his fate severed, it was impossible for him to be resurrected. Even if that scapegoat was killed by Anan, allowing him to come back to life, he would still be killed by others, by other resurrected experts. Go and find out who dared to sever Anan's fate. There are only a few people who can sever Anan's fate. Only those who have reached the peak of the invincible Overlord realm are capable of doing so. Go and find out who the invincible Overlord is in the Fate Destroyer Great Master. The Patriarch of the Land of Rebirth was extremely furious as he shouted at an expert beside him. Yes, Patriarch, I'll go and find out. However, if young Master Anan's fate is severed now, if we don't teleport him here in time, his life will be in danger. At this moment, the expert said, I can't do it now. That space is special and has been sealed by a formation. I can't even find out who it is. The strength of the other party is extremely strong, comparable to mine. Of course, the Patriarch of the Land of Rebirth had done his calculations. However, to his surprise, he couldn't find out who the other party was, nor could he open up that space. There was an expert blocking his power. The other party's strength wasn't inferior to his. Perhaps the other party was his enemy. However, he still couldn't find out which invincible overlord was involved. Meanwhile, within the formation space of Yang Hongwu didn't know that he had almost been targeted by the Patriarch of the Land of Rebirth. When the Patriarch was investigating, Yang Hongwu also felt a strong aura sweeping past. However, he hid it well, and no one noticed it. This expert was indeed extremely strong. His aura was extremely far away, as if he wasn't in the Fate Destroyer Great Master. However, his strength was definitely extremely strong. He might have already surpassed Farukaradaiza. Chapter 2267. Yang Hongwu's nerves tensed up the moment he sensed the aura. The aura was too powerful for him to contend with. Perhaps he might have been able to contend with it when he was at his peak in his previous life. Yang Hongwu heaved a sigh of relief after the aura passed. Of course, Supremacy Fate Destroyer had also sensed the aura. However, to his surprise, the aura left after scanning the area. This also meant that the concealment of the formation set up by Yang Hongwu was indeed extremely powerful. Even such a domineering expert, a patriarch of the Land of Rebirth, was unable to detect his location. This formation was really not simple. He had underestimated Yang Hongwu. While he was amazed by the power of the formation set up by Yang Hongwu, he also heaved a sigh of relief. With this formation, the Patriarch of the Land of Rebirth was unable to detect his presence. This meant that the Patriarch did not know that he was the one who was going to deal with his descendant. In this way, he would not be in such a great risk. However, there was also a huge problem. Although he had the upper hand in the battle with the resurrected expert, and could even kill him, he would definitely be seriously injured after killing him. Under such circumstances, it would not be easy for him to break the formation. Moreover, even if he really broke the formation and forcibly opened it, there would still be a huge problem. This problem was Yang Hongwu. Although Yang Hongwu was only a Tao Lord, he did not dare to underestimate him. The formation he had set up could actually block the detection of a Patriarch of the Land of Rebirth. Even though the Patriarch of the Land of Rebirth was very far away, it still proved that Yang Hongwu was really very powerful. It should be known that his cultivation was only at the Tao Lord realm. It was too terrifying for him to be able to achieve this with just a Tao Lord realm cultivation. If he was allowed to grow and reach the Universe Overlord realm, wouldn't his combat strength be able to contend with an invincible Overlord? If that was really the case, it would be quite terrifying. It should be known that no one had ever reached such a level of cultivation. It was almost impossible for a Universe Overlord to be able to cross realms and contend with an invincible Overlord. It had never been seen before. However, the kid in front of him had such potential. It was possible for him to surpass an invincible Overlord. However, after thinking about it, this guy was probably the reincarnation of an existence that surpassed an invincible Overlord. This was not surprising. No matter what, it was very fatal for him this time. It meant that he really had a slim chance of survival. Even if he managed to escape from the reincarnated great being, from the Patriarch of the Land of Rebirth, and even if he managed to break the formation, the chances of him surviving in the face of Yang Hongwu, who was only at the Tao Lord realm, were too slim. This made him feel very helpless. There was nothing he could do. It could be said that he was on the verge of death. He had never thought that he would end up in such a state. At this moment, he really wanted to coexist peacefully with this reincarnated great being in front of him. He even wanted to join forces to deal with Yang Hongwu. However, how could that be possible? As reincarnated great beings, their only goal was to obtain the flesh and blood of universe overlords who could help them revive. Cultivators and living beings without the flesh and blood of universe overlords were not attractive to them. No matter how good the other party's words were, it meant nothing to them. Of course, this was only for reincarnated great beings at the level of universe overlords. If they were reincarnated great beings who had surpassed the level of universe overlords, the flesh and blood of universe overlords would not be attractive to them. What they needed was the flesh and blood of cultivators or living beings who were at the same level or higher. While Luck Destroyer Grand Monarch was pondering these questions, the reincarnated great being made his move. He attacked Luck Destroyer Grand Monarch crazily again. To him, what was the point of losing his fortune? It was just a fight to the death. If he could kill this universe overlord in front of him, he would be able to truly revive. As long as he could obtain the power of his flesh and blood, he would be able to obtain his fortune. He was already a dead man, and his fortune had been taken away. As long as he could kill this guy in front of him, not only would he be able to take back his fortune, but he would also be able to seize his fortune, his flesh and blood, his great Tao of the universe, and everything else that belonged to him. Damn it, you're not qualified to kill me. I, Luck Destroyer Grand Monarch, have never felt so aggrieved before. This time, Luck Destroyer Grand Monarch was enraged. He did not think about anything else. He just wanted to kill this annoying, reincarnated, great being in front of him first. At this moment, Luck Destroyer Grand Monarch unleashed his true fighting strength. He was no longer using the Luck Destroyer Blade. His Luck Destroyer Blade could only be used once on one person in a short period of time. It was the means he used to cut off his enemy's fortune. However, he had not really revealed his killing means yet. His hands bent slightly, and a battle saber appeared on his arm. This battle saber was his true killing weapon. It was the Blade of Massacre. He, Luck Destroyer Grand Monarch, not only had the invisible Luck Destroyer Blade, but he also had the Blade of Massacre that could kill people and kill gods and demons. He used the Luck Destroyer Blade to cut off his enemy's fortune, and then he used the Blade of Massacre to cut off his enemy's flesh and blood. The combination of the two was the real, terrifying killing weapon of Luck Destroyer Grand Monarch. When this blade came down on Nan, the reincarnated great being was knocked back in an instant. His soul was about to be cut off. The power of this strike was extremely powerful. Even Yang Hongwu was almost caught up in the aftermath of the attack. Just as Yang Hongwu was about to wait for an opportunity to strike, the reinforcements of Luck Destroyer Grand Monarch arrived. They were the cultivators who were half-step universe overlords. There were not many of them, only 3 of them. However, they were all half-step universe overlords. Their strength was nothing compared to cultivators at the level of universe overlords. However, it was a great challenge for Yang Hanwu. The cultivation levels of these 3 were much higher than his. If there was only one of them, he would not be afraid at all. However, there were 3 of them. He could not fight them head-on. This time, it was not easy for him to be the fisherman. Especially at this time, Yang Hongwu still had to control the array formation. He had to divide his attention to deal with these guys. This was a great challenge for Yang Hongwu. Of course, Yang Hongwu was not afraid. The array formation was right there. Since he could not fight them head-on, he would send them into the array and use the array to deal with them. Chapter 2268. Third brother, it's here. This is where Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch asked for help. One of them said, "Yes, it's here. I really don't understand. Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch is so powerful, but even he can't do anything. What can we do?" The other said, "Second brother, don't be so long-winded. If Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch hears you, we won't have a good time." Big brother said, "That's right, second brother. You can't talk nonsense. Have you forgotten what happened last time?" Third brother said, "Yes, second brother. You're the most talented among us 3 brothers, but you can't control your mouth. If it weren't for that, you would have been specially taken care of by Master. Maybe you could have become a universe overlord by now," Big brother said. He looked a little disappointed. "Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's see where Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch is." Seriously, a universe overlord wants to capture a cultivator at the level of a Tao Lord, yet he still has to ask for help. What the hell? Second brother was still long-winded. He was very dissatisfied. Although he knew that his words might upset Fate Destroyer Grand Monarch, he couldn't help but say it. Yang Hongwu heard the conversation between the 3 of them. The 3 of them were really weird. The second brother was indeed the strongest. His universe Great Tao was already very complete, and he was the closest to becoming a universe overlord. As long as he had the opportunity, he would be able to make a breakthrough to become a universe overlord. He had to admit that this guy was very talented. If this guy broke through to become a universe overlord at this time, it would be really fun. If he sent him into the formation and got the universe Great Tao of the resurrected great being, he might really break through to become a universe overlord. This was not what Yang Hongwu wanted to see. However, If he didn't send him into the formation, Yang Hongwu would have to pay a high price to deal with him. This was also what troubled Yang Hongwu. However, no matter what, he had to send them in first. After sending two in, he could think of a way to deal with the other one. The battle between the Fate Destroyer Supremacy and the Resurrected Expert was coming to an end, so he didn't need to worry too much. Right now, the Fate Exterminator indeed had the upper hand. The Resurrected Powerhouse was almost at the end of his tether. Even so, the Resurrected Powerhouse showed no signs of retreating. It meant that they were going to fight to the death and perish together. For Yang Hongwu, this was a good thing, an extremely good thing. As for the three brothers, it was enough to send the eldest brother and the third brother into the formation. If the resurrected great being self-destructed and perished together with them, the impact of the powerful force would certainly not be pleasant for them. By then, they would all be severely injured. As for the second brother, who was the most outstanding and the most powerful, Yang Hongwu did not send him into the formation because he did not want to give him a chance to make a breakthrough. After all, he was already at the edge of the limit of a half-step universe overlord and could make a breakthrough at any time. In this life-or-death situation, it was the easiest way to break through the limit and comprehend the great Tao of the universe. Therefore, Yang Hongwu would not give him such a chance. The aura is inside. There's a resurrected, great being inside. The moment Yang Hongwu opened a crack in the formation, the eldest brother sensed the aura. Let's go in. The three of them nodded and walked toward the formation set up by Yang Hongwu. The eldest brother and the third brother entered the formation smoothly, but the second brother was blocked by Yang Hongwu's formation. Oh no, this is a formation. The eldest brother and the third brother have entered, and I'm trapped outside. Damn it. At this time, the second brother was blocked outside. His expression changed. Since there was an array here, it meant that the enemy had already planned this. He did not understand why the eldest brother and the third brother could enter, but only he was blocked outside. Wouldn't it be better for the three of them to enter the formation together? He couldn't figure it out. However, he knew very well that it would be very dangerous for the eldest brother and the third brother to enter. After all, there was a resurrected great being inside. Moreover, the Fate Destroyer Grand Venerable was also trapped in the formation. Otherwise, he wouldn't have asked for help. He wanted to break the formation. As long as the formation was broken, all the problems would be solved. Even if the Fate Destroyer Grand Venerable was no match for him, he would still be able to find a way to escape, right? The second brother was well aware of the Fate Destroyer Grand Venerable's strength. He was extremely powerful and could sever the fate of others. This was a very powerful technique. Break! He roared, clenching his fists and punching. He used all his strength in this attack. He wanted to break the formation in the shortest time possible. However, when his fists hit the formation, 9 golden dragons appeared and devoured his strength directly. His attack didn't pose any threat to the array formation. Instead, it provided energy for the array formation. This left him completely dumbfounded. What kind of formation is this? It directly devoured the strength of the person who broke the formation to increase the power of the formation. Such a formation was too shocking and powerful. He had never seen anything like it before. It was no wonder that an expert like the Fate Destroyer Grand Venerable was trapped in the formation. Now, he had no way of dealing with such a formation. In fact, what he didn't know was that this formation could devour some power to increase the strength of the formation. However, not all power could be devoured without restraint. Only some special powers could be easily devoured. The great Tao that the second brother cultivated was of the same origin as the great Tao of the resurrected great being in the formation I. Therefore, this formation could easily devour and refine his power. Even Yang Hongwu didn't expect this. Fortunately, Yang Hongwu didn't let him in. Otherwise, he could devour the great path of the universe of the resurrected great being in the eye of the formation. Once he comprehended the power in it, he could break through his current bottleneck and enter the level of a universe overlord. By then, Not only would his formation be destroyed, but he would also create an enemy at the level of a universe overlord. The loss would outweigh the gain, and he would suffer a double loss. Not bad, as expected of the reinforcements brought by the Fate Destroyer supremacy. TSK. It's a pity that this formation is your natural nemesis. At this time, Yang Hongwu appeared. Yang Hongwu didn't have to worry about the formation anymore. Although the Fate Destroyer Grand Venerable would win sooner or later, he still needed some time. This time, however, was enough for him to deal with this guy in front of him. It's really you? The third brother was very surprised to see Yang Hongwu, but it was reasonable. Who are you? Who am I? That's not important. What's important is that today, all of you will die here. Even the Slaughter Grand Venerable will become a dead soul in my hands. Yang Hongwu's eyes were full of killing intent and fighting spirit. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.